Chances are you've probably already seen tons of YouTubers calling Ethan out over the years. I'm sure you've seen people calling him a hypocrite, a liar, a manipulator, etc. But to be honest, I don't think many YouTubers, if anyone, have ever fully encapsulated the sheer quantities of toxicity, hate, and hypocrisy that I'm about to show you.
Dude, you are literally empty inside. Dude, you're the ugliest dude I've ever seen in my life. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not one to bully, but you should transition into someone that doesn't look so fucking ugly. That's what a loser you are. You're so unappealing. Disgusting, inside and out. The most vile, disgusting person probably ever walked this earth. I mean, with all due respect, you're gonna die alone. Dude, you're gonna die alone without a family. I mean, that's sad, bro. One of the most embarrassing human beings ever. You are the most unfuckable, repulsive creature. Sad. You are a vile slime of a human that nobody will ever want you.
Sheesh. And despite this blatantly vindictive and at times egregious behavior that he records himself doing, Ethan often tries to claim that he's a completely different person than how he acts.
I'm constantly maturing and growing and trying to do better, you know?
But I've been quite patient with this guy, and to be honest, the man is only getting worse and worse as time goes on. You see, over the years, Ethan has somehow managed to go from one of the most well-respected creators on the entire platform to subjective internet bad guy to a straight-up scam artist.
Gambling is such a fucking venomous, it's just such a toxic, poisonous activity. Today's episode is sponsored by DraftKings. Thank you to them. He put out the NFT, as all scammers and cons have been doing lately. So it's the Vape God token and the Vape Nation NFT, one of one. Bro, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
As you could probably tell, Ethan is not exactly a man of principle. He's a man of profit and personal gain, and he'll do and say just about anything to get what he wants.
It's hard to explain just what a existential threat this guy is to people he hates. And that's why I talk about him so much, is because he thrives on bullying people and like destroying people's lives.
But I'd argue that the real scam is in the way that he acts. For example, Ethan has been pretending to be a left-wing political commentator since 2016. Yet, when he was recently asked to list one good thing that Obama did in office, Ethan immediately forgot how to speak English.
Personally, I think Obama was a great president. What do you think about that?
You're playing.
No, he did a lot of great things. Talk about hope. He gave people lots of hope.
What did he do that was great?
What did he do that was great? He was chill.
So, although Ethan tries to present himself as authentic, the reality is actually quite different.
I've never been more honest. I've never been more authentic.
Yeah, buddy, and I'm a billionaire. He's actually never been less honest and less authentic. I mean, just think of everything that your least favorite YouTuber has done and multiply that by 10 and we have Ethan Klein. From exploiting his own friends for financial gain and social credit, to making fun of others for the loss of their loved ones, to starting a political podcast with the second biggest fraud in all of American politics, only behind himself of course, to running one of the most unethical businesses on all of YouTube, to scamming his fans, to criticizing others for all of the exact same things he does. I could go on for days here.
Because I got fucking files on top of files.
To put it frankly, Ethan has become a problem that I now have to deal with.
Dread it, run from it, destiny arrives all the same. And now it's here. Or should I say, I am.
What we do here is go back.
In order for us to fully understand Ethan's fall from grace, we have to first understand who Ethan is, or more importantly, who he was.
Yes, we live in Israel. Yes, we're Jewish, you fucking bigots. We're not religious people, okay? We're not political people. We're just some dudes who, you know, want to make funny videos, man.
In early 2013, Ethan and Hila started posting videos to their YouTube channel, H3H3 Productions, initially focusing on YouTube poop-style videos.
Cover all 9,000 taste buds. Aerate it. Warm it up. Driving up. Get that top note. That cream.
pure vanilla.
Obviously, that wasn't exactly the most sustainable type of content to produce, so in 2014, they started making their signature reaction videos. And while I understand reaction channels get a bad rap nowadays, Ethan and Hila weren't just regular reaction YouTubers. Their videos were unique, with Hila behind the camera and Ethan as the on-screen talent. And together as a team, it almost seemed like these two were unstoppable.
Women, you know, do feel the cold more than men.
They're kidding, right? Come on, this isn't on the news, really, right? I mean, she's not serious, right?
This is happening, that women, you know, do feel the cold more than men, and that the AC in offices is normally renovated more than men.
And most importantly, Ethan was rational, nice, and humble.
I want to support you both directly. Start a Patreon, please. Thank you so much, Dakota. Appreciate you. We're so mixed feelings on Patreon because I don't even describe it. We're not poor. I feel like starting a Patreon insinuates some way that we're poor, and so we would rather you guys support other people who aren't, like, we're making way less money than we used to, but still we're not poor. So I would find other YouTube channels that are struggling to make ends meet and support them. It feels selfish to open a Patreon is what I mean.
And by 2016, they had surpassed 1 million subscribers, and Ethan established himself as a voice of reason within the YouTube community. From exposing CSGO Lotto for the absolute scam that it was, to raising money for Humongous' cancer diagnosis, to giving Ken Bone a platform to share his story, to the Matt Hoss lawsuit where they certified fair use as a matter of law in the US. Ethan did a lot for the commentary community back in the day, and people in general loved him for it.
Let's be fair, no one likes Soulfly and Tony on the internet, and H3H3 seems to be this demigod that's descended from the heavens sharing his fupa with everyone, so everyone praise the fupa, please.
Even when it came to politics, Ethan had this incredible ability to stay calm, cool, and collected about extremely divisive issues.
Stop thinking about everyone as the devil, okay? The person on the left side from you and on the right side, they're just as human as you are. I promise. They have a reason for thinking and feeling the way they do. Maybe put down your fucking pitchfork, okay? Lower your emotional shield. Don't get triggered and listen to them.
But obviously no one's perfect, and over time, the public's perception of Ethan started to deteriorate for reasons that almost no one could have predicted. In March of 2016, Ethan released the infamous Leafy rant, which Ethan made in response to growing concerns within the YouTube community about content that was seen as bullying or exploitative of vulnerable individuals. And Ethan had positioned himself as the voice of reason on YouTube, so who better to make a video on Leafy than Ethan, right?
So what happened? Leafy made a video about a guy like he usually does, calling him a fucking asshole, cringy, weirdo, you know, whatever, all the stuff he usually does. And it turns out that this guy is actually autistic and has a YouTube channel. He's a YouTuber. So essentially, he has made fun of someone who actually has a mental disability. And I mean, if you look at Leafy's channel, all he does is make fun of kids and like vulnerable people, like Joey's World Tour. There's no sport in making fun of these people. It's just sad.
I would assume most people didn't have any problem with the substance of the video itself. Defending children and people with autism should be a pretty clear-cut issue, but the problem was the fact that Ethan was not exactly the right guy to be delivering that message.
All he does is make fun of kids?
Okay. Ethan, you sure you want to make this point? You really the saint in this matter? You really not a hypocrite with this?
Clean cut? I wouldn't exactly call it clean cut. He's got the hair of a fucking 6-year-old dude with a goddamn shitty toupee.
To be fair to Ethan, that is a Lego haircut if I've ever seen one, and I can say that now that he's an adult, but that kid was like 14 when Ethan made fun of him for 7 minutes straight in front of 7 million people. And that kid, Timmy, actually ended up deleting that video after Ethan's video absolutely roasting him came out. So this wasn't exactly a good look for Ethan, and on top of that, Ethan also clearly stated that he and the person that he was currently criticizing at the time were friends.
I'm actually friends with these guys, so it's awkward and it's uncomfortable.
And that made him look even worse in the eyes of the general public than he already did. Now, Ethan did later correct the record, and he said they were more friendly versus friends.
Ethan, we spoke privately. I told you privately, like, as this was happening, I was like, I seen it as a backstab. You literally called this dude his friends, and you said, well, we weren't really friends, we were friendly, but that's not what you said in your video. That's not what you publicly said. And, you know, when Leafy says, we are friends, we talk all the time, and he did this to me, you know, who am I going to believe?
Yeah, it's fine. I f***ed myself. That video was bad. In a way, I don't blame you for for thinking that. I fucked up in that situation a lot.
Obviously, we all make mistakes, but if you watch the video without knowing the additional context, you would have just thought Ethan made a video publicly calling out his own friend for being a bully instead of just reaching out to him directly. And regardless of whether or not they were or weren't friends, just a month or so before Ethan made that video criticizing Leafy, he was messaging him directly and glazing him about how incredible he is.
A month ago, he literally said this to me. Happy for you blowing up. You got a unique style and personality, man. You worked hard to get where you are, and you deserve it. And yeah, I was making the same exact videos when he sent me that as I do now today.
Nothing about Leafy changed at all in that 1 month time period between when Ethan was telling him in writing how much he loved his videos and how he was the cancer of YouTube. If you thought he was the cancer of YouTube when Ethan made that video, you also thought the same thing when Ethan was telling him how great he was. And Ethan's streak of turning on his friends continued in February of 2017 when the incident happened.
What a fucking jeez, oh my god, what the fuck?
And unlike the Leafy situation, PewDiePie and Ethan were actually friends at the time, so Ethan's response to his friend saying the N-word one time was quite shocking, to say the least.
I don't think Felix is a racist person, but god damn, he really kind of just was really comfortable using that word. That really just kind of... Like, you're reaching for all these words, right? You're like, oh, let me just like a little and bump for you. I mean, I know this is a point a lot of people say, but it certainly seems like that's not the first time he's used that word in that context. I think it's gross. Yeah, on a personal level, I think it's gross, it's irresponsible, and it's not cool. I mean, he's 27 years old. At this point, he should know better than and beyond that, he's freaking PewDiePie. He's the biggest YouTuber. He represents all of us. It needs to be more responsible, especially after we all stuck our necks out to defend him. Disappointed is how I would describe my feelings on that one.
Now, I totally understand what Ethan was trying to say there. At the end of the day, if you're one of the biggest YouTubers of all time, there's just no positives that can come out of saying the N-word. It can only ever hurt you. I mean, who in their right mind would ever want to make a video like this?
I'm making this video to talk about the most regretful and shameful thing that I've ever had to talk about publicly. There's a video that's out that's a compilation of me saying the N-word.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit. No!
But just like the Leafy video, it wasn't necessarily that Ethan was objectively wrong. It was the fact that, one, PewDiePie was literally his friend at the time, and I think it's more than fair to be a tad bit biased towards your own friend and defend them as long as you're still being reasonable. And two, of all people to be delivering this message, Ethan is literally the second last person on the entire planet who can speak out against excessive usage of the N-word.
Is it racist to refer to black people as blacks?
Because to the best of my knowledge, the only other massive YouTuber who said the N-word on video more than Ethan is his friend iDubbbz, and at one point, even he had to calm Ethan down from using the N-word too much.
I love that I can just say nigger it though.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like
little.
you're using it a little liberally.
I love saying it. It's so wonderful.
He's like, you think I'll leave here without them Doritos, dog? Nah, fool.
You ain't holding down shit. Nigga, broke. You ashy as fuck.
So to anyone who wasn't swayed by the Leafy video, I think the PewDiePie situation clearly exemplified to everyone exactly how dishonest Ethan truly is because of how quickly he was willing to switch up on those that he knows for views and social credit.
So he's a snake too.
Now, these two situations actually ended up doing severe damage to Ethan's reputation in the grand scheme of things, because these events highlight a massive issue with Ethan's character. You see, Ethan has this incredible habit of pulling the ladder up behind him. He glazed Leafy in private, told him how great he was in writing, and then he turned around and made a hit piece on the guy strictly because he felt it would be profitable and socially acceptable to do so. He befriended PewDiePie and collaborated with him and literally has made tens of thousands of dollars as a direct result of their friendship. Then, the same second Felix started getting pushback, Ethan was the first one to criticize him.
Front runners, meaning when things are going great, we all in it. When things are going bad, they pull apart.
The fact of the matter is, Ethan is a self-serving, opportunistic man, and he has always been that way from day one. He looks at every situation only through the lens as to how he can use it to benefit himself, rather than looking at things through the perspectives of others, and the signs have always been there. Ethan is the exact type of guy to say, it was okay for me to do X, Y, and Z at that time, but it's certainly not okay for you to do that exact same thing now.
Women are in a nature setting, like, to be conquered.
Ethan was 32 when that was recorded, I'm 24 now, and if I said those exact same words on a podcast in the exact same tone, this is what Ethan would say.
This is just misogynistic, just fucking trash. Just trash.
A perfect example of Ethan pulling up the ladder behind him is his relationship with Keemstar.
I'm more than gay. I'm bestiality.
Now, I want to make this clear, these two were never friends or anything, but they were in fact peers, and in 2017, Ethan brought Keem onto his show as one of his first guests ever.
One of my questions for you is, how do you fucking afford all this shit?
What?
Because you were driving like fucking fancy ass cars all the time. You got this big beautiful house. I'm like, how this motherfucking G Fuel ass drink can afford all this shit? Like, I know G Fuel doesn't pay that well. Goddamn.
They take care of me. They're good.
Well, I never see what that G Fuel has.
And it's a great energy drink. Check it out. Code Keem.
They had a reasonably normal conversation despite some disagreements, but the real issues began to arise after the podcast was released.
I did the H3H3 podcast. It was good. I mean, he was really nice in person. Like, I had a good time. I thought it was f***ing great. I had no problems whatsoever. And then when he uploaded the podcast today, he left this comment that said, I understand a lot of you do not like Keemstar, but that's why we had him on the show. It's good to have conflicting views and opinions. Hate him all you want. We do too, but he's an interesting character, and that's what this show is about. God bless. The whole we do too, like they hate me? Like what the f***?
If you hate someone, you should not need to make a comment clarifying that you hate your guest because you got an ounce of pushback. You should tell them right to their face and make it abundantly clear. Realistically, what was Keem gonna do? Punch him? No, it's a podcast meant for entertainment purposes. You're supposed to communicate with the other person.
His fragile little clown heart was hurt when we did the podcast, and then I said afterwards in a comment that I hated him.
Yes, that's a totally reasonable thing to be upset about. So one thing is for certain, Ethan is a snake for this, and yet again, he is 110% at fault here. And as a result of Ethan being so objectively wrong in this situation, these two clowns then decided to have a half-a-decade-long internet beef, which ended up culminating in Ethan releasing the infamous content nuke on Keemstar. And in that video, he specifically made sure to mention Keemstar's sponsor, G Fuel, on more than 5 separate occasions.
How is G Fuel still sponsor this guy, by the way? G Fuel brought to you by false pedophilia accusations. Shut it, G Fuel.
Get it now at gfuel.com.
Also sponsored by G Fuel. Use code KEEM for 10% off of your life expectancy. G Fuel apparently blah 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 your whole history when they decided to sponsor you.
Brought to you by Dr. Daniel Keemstar. Sponsored by G Fuel.
Ethan is one of the biggest YouTubers of all time, and by attacking Keem's sponsor in the very obvious way that he did, he single-handedly set the precedent that it's totally okay to attack the sponsors of any content creator as long as you're beefing with them. And because this is Ethan Klein we're talking about, he did that while simultaneously saying that he was against doing exactly what he was doing.
Let me address this head on. I am not someone that supports going after somebody's sponsors to try to cancel them for something bad they've said. G Fuel is as much a part of Keemstar's identity as his beard. He has it on his head in every video. He's got it on the desk in every video. It's very much a part of his identity. How am I supposed to criticize Keemstar and not address the fact that G Fuel's on his desk at every time? In the hurricane of destruction, there's always G Fuel sitting there on his desk. How am I not supposed to talk about that?
How are you supposed to not talk about G Fuel? Well, luckily, I don't think anyone can answer that question better than me. I've literally made a 45-minute video criticizing Keemstar extensively, and there's not a single mention of G Fuel in that video. I can tell you from first-hand experience, it's actually pretty easy to criticize someone and not mention their sponsors in a way that was clearly done with the intention of having your fans attack their sponsors. And Ethan's fans did attack. I even found this post from their subreddit from back then, and it specifically says it worked with G Fuel, so it'll probably work with Spotify. Everyone spam them.
Yeah, Keemstar's done a ton of fucked up shit that definitely deserves consequences, but taking it into your hands is like the arbiter of justice to spam his advertisers to get him to drop them. You don't see how that could be used against you?
When you're the guy who needs to attack other people's sponsors instead of simply just making good arguments, of course you're going to, at one point or another, get a taste of your own medicine.
Today we have no sponsors. No sponsors today. It's a sad fucking day. It's a sad month to be H3 Podcast. We had no sponsors today, so we have no sponsors today because they're heartless. Today we have no sponsors because I am an existential threat to gay rights and all progress. So, of course, our wonderful fans have taken it upon themselves to write all our sponsors and to have them not sponsor or not to support us. So we have no sponsors. So we haven't had a sponsor in like 2 weeks. What's going on? I don't know. I think the left and the right are all colluding to make sure I have no sponsors now. I love and appreciate the member support. It's so helpful at this time when we're losing pretty much, we've probably lost like 80% of our sponsors.
And it actually gets worse. Not only did G Fuel drop Keem then went on to replace his G Fuel sponsorship with a MyBookie sponsorship. So at the end of the day, he's most likely now being paid more money than he was with G Fuel, and instead of selling energy drinks, he's now shilling gambling to his child audience on Snapchat. So yet again, this is a perfect example of Ethan being objectively and unequivocally in the wrong, and it ended with Ethan yet again being objectively and unequivocally wrong, pulling up the ladder behind him, and at the end of the day, it only ends up backfiring on himself.
It's just a snake eating its own tail of people being mad on the internet.
Right, that's interesting.
Yo, I got a little podcast, baby, gonna come through with the podcast. I gotta get the news on blast. I'm talking about Trisha Paytas. I'm talking about food, fast food.
My favorite cope by YouTubers like Ethan, who've lost hundreds of thousands of subscribers as a result of nothing but their own actions, is that they've somehow changed and grown and matured and evolved.
It's been a long, painful, hard journey for myself. It's been a tremendous growth for myself. I've matured so much. It's actually incredible.
Unfortunately, those are nothing but empty words. When it comes to maturity, I will admit, Ethan seems to know exactly what to say and when to say it, but he never seems to actually show anyone exactly how he's matured. He just verbally says it out loud. And in my opinion, if you have to constantly go out of your way to remind people that you've matured, you most definitely haven't.
Dan, you like this?
Buddy, sexy.
You like this, bro?
Oh, mama.
Bro, you like this?
Yes.
Wait, there's kids here?
Laugh it up. Laugh it up, everybody.
But I think
Kids here.
oh, I think I got banned already. What?
Yeah, see ya.
Imagine if I consistently went out of my way to mention what a good person I am on my channel. You'd probably think I was the exact opposite of that, right?
I need you to tell me that I'm a good person. I know that I can be selfish and narcissistic and self-destructive, but underneath all that, deep down, I'm a good person, and I need you to tell me that I'm good. Diane? Tell me, please, Diane, tell me that I'm good.
That is exactly what Ethan does in terms of maturity. Fundamentally, we have to understand, if you're a YouTuber and hundreds of thousands of your own fans who already know, like, and trust you are mass unsubscribing from your channel, specifically a channel that you don't even post on anymore, that is an objective metric that clearly indicates that you've gotten worse in one way or another. Because it's not like Ethan is making new or worse content, there hasn't been any new content to not like on that channel. So in my opinion, this indicates a deep disapproval of his character on a mass scale.
Everyone thought, wow, this guy's really changed. Yeah, he has changed. For the worse. The much, much worse.
Because losing more than 500,000 subscribers isn't just numbers on a screen going down, those are all individual human beings who once resonated with Ethan enough to subscribe, now saying they want nothing to do with Ethan, even for free. So it's actually the exact opposite of what Ethan claims.
This is a time of peace for me. This is a time of Maturing?
He hasn't matured. In fact, he's only lost that many of his own fans over time because of his abject failure to grow and mature as time goes on. For example, right around the time that he dropped the content nuke, Ethan had this custom puppet of Keemstar made, and I will admit, as a Keem hater, the puppet is absolutely incredible.
He literally moved to LA from New York. He is such a libtard.
Wow,
He is the definition of what happens when a libtard moves from New York to LA. Hypocrite!
However, this same guy who goes around yapping about how he's matured so much got so angry at Keemstar at one point that he started attempting to go inside of the Keemstar puppet using a select body part in a now deleted video, which of course I saved.
Keemstar, get in on it. Come on, here, let's double team this. Ooh. Come on, Keemy. Hey, Keemstar, keep your hands to yourself. We're not crossing streams here. Come on. This guy always crossing the line.
Yeah, I think Keem is the one crossing the line in this situation. There's not a single person who could ever watch that full video uncensored and think anything other than,
what a cringy, he's just an embarrassing human being. I mean, he's older than me. He's 40, almost 40. And he's trying to act like he's 18.
How old are you?
He's 40!
I don't want to talk about it. 38.
You're 40 years of age!
On a more serious note, last year, one of Ethan's employees, AB, fought a creator named Dad, or Nathan Barnett, at Creator Clash 2. Now, Dad had previously gone on the H3 podcast before Creator Clash 1 to promote his first fight, and when he went on the podcast, he felt comfortable enough sharing his experience of when he unfortunately lost his girlfriend.
The love of my life passed away 9 months ago, and like,
who did?
Wait, what? I mean, yeah, I'm like, it's
wait, who passed away?
The love of my life. I'm not trying to get into any weird stuff, but like, I'm just talking to you guys. I'm getting amped up right now, and this is legitimately going to be the biggest day of my life, and I'm going to do it for her. So, and I'll get redemption for everything that's happened to me over 20 years.
What happened to Dad was tragic, and it's one of those things that literally every single mature adult would agree should be treated with nothing but respect. So before Dad's fight at Creator Clash 2, Ethan went on to say this about Dad.
He came on our show to promote his fight against Matt, and he was just like,
he's an animal.
My life is a tragedy. I'm fighting for my dead girlfriend. I was like, whoa, dude, I don't want to. I don't.
Yeah, you don't want a dead girlfriend punch.
No.
Nobody wants a dead girlfriend punch to the face.
No, but I would pity anyone who gets in the ring with him, dude. That would be a fucking disaster for anybody.
Now, I'm no expert in maturity. In fact, I'm actually quite immature.
I'm retarded.
But when I think about maturity, the last thing that would ever come to my mind is a 40-year-old man who openly mocks the death of other people's girlfriends who he personally knows.
But like, when he had Anthony Fantano on the show, he's saying stuff like, Dad has dead girlfriend energy, and he's referencing Siobhan, my girlfriend who did pass away. I was like, this is the joke? You're saying I have dead girlfriend energy? And he just kept saying it the way he said it, was just throwing it out there. It was very casual the way he was saying it, and I felt it was kind of insensitive, because like, imagine this was Flip, and I said something, and something like this happened to him, and I said anything, like, I would get torn apart on the internet. But like, it's just throwing it away like that, saying calling her a dead girlfriend, and it was really sad to me.
I've actually never seen someone have a more valid concern about anything than Dad saying, hey, maybe that was a little insensitive, yet this delusional and allegedly mature adult still went on to say,
I've tried my best to avoid having to talk about this, and I'm not kidding. If I have to talk about this, Dad is gonna look like a fucking idiot.
No, he's not actually. It's been a year, and still to this day, he definitely doesn't look like the idiot in this situation. Ethan does, because he lacks maturity.
We both used to be like edgy comedians, and we were a part of the larger commentary community. And as we've aged, we've realized that, you know, you want to conduct yourself differently.
You see, to Ethan, conducting yourself differently just means being as cruel and inhumane as humanly possible. So in that exact same podcast episode where he was bragging about how he conducts himself so well, he goes on to mock the YouTuber Dr. Mike for the loss of his mother.
I've been boxing for 10 years ever since my mom passed away, and it's been such a...
He's fighting with the spirit of his dead mom.
You can have muscles but be soft.
His mom died though.
Slap the shit out you, nigga.
saying that stupid ass shit.
I can't believe I even have to say this, but true maturity and just basic human decency is treating those who are going through profound loss with the utmost respect and empathy. I know for a fact Ethan would be severely upset if I said the same words in the same tone about his dog Shredder, who recently passed away. In fact, he would most likely cry. Yet, he turns around and does exactly that to other people's moms and significant others?
This is what growth is. This is what maturing is.
Yeah.
This is what it looks like. And sadly, it's almost become a virtue today, at least in American culture, to not change.
Ethan has to do this bizarre set of mental gymnastics to make it seem like the entirety of today's culture just revolves around the fact that nobody wants anyone to change, when literally everyone knows that's just not true. Change is not a problem. Nobody is gatekeeping becoming a better person, aside from the straw man arguments that Ethan invents in his own mind.
Growth is good. Maturation is good.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna, who can really tell me, like, oh, maturing means saying the N-word more? like, who's gonna make that argument?
Literally all it comes down to is the fact that people in general expect positive change and not change for the worse. Filthy Frank and PewDiePie have both changed for the better over time, and they've actually matured and become better versions of themselves as they've aged, unlike Ethan. And as a result of that, the general public, including their old fans, still respect them both for who they are today and also who they were in the past. The difference between them is that unlike Felix and Frank, Ethan has changed for the worse. A perfect example of Ethan clearly changing for the worse was when the Twitch streamer Cutie Cinderella found out a certain website had been selling inappropriate fake videos of herself and other Twitch streamers, and she streamed her reaction to it, and as you would expect, Ethan had the most mature response possible.
This is what it looks like. This is what the pain looks like. Okay? Why? Why?
What is going on with you?
I'm sorry, don't mind me.
If you are able to look at women who are not selling themselves or benefiting off of being seen sexually.
You're a monster, dude. You guys are crazy.
Why did you do that?
Zach, what the fuck, bro?
Remember guys, Ethan Klein is a self-proclaimed feminist who's apparently so passionate about feminism that at one point he even wore a shirt that says, Dad, Husband, Feminist.
He said he wanted to debate a feminist!
Coward.
Tell him I said he's a coward.
Show him that shirt. Make sure he sees
Take
it.
a picture of me and send him and say, Ethan says you're a coward. You want to debate a feminist. I'm serious. Take a picture. Right now.
So he's more than happy to profit off of feminism, both monetarily and in terms of social credit, yet in a moment that clearly called for a little bit of basic human decency to a female, Ethan couldn't even pretend to be compassionate towards Cutie.
He's just hard to even imagine he's a real person, you know? It's like, damn, there's a real person out there like that. It's wild.
On another note, let's take a look at what the content creator Brittany Broski had to say about her appearance on the H3 podcast.
What's the nastiest thing you've seen on the internet?
I recently went on fucking H3 and Ethan showed me a video of two prolapsed assholes rubbing against each other. So that's actually really awesome that you asked that because I had an answer ready to go.
Yeah.
As you just heard there, Ethan has this really bizarre habit of asking his guests awkward relationship questions or showing them adult content live on his show. I have to keep this PG, but for example, Ethan brought this adult actor named Hunger FF onto his show and had him show off some of his talents to his guest at the time, Howie Mandel.
Just go ahead and do it right now?
Yeah, just go ahead.
Everything you
Thank you.
requested.
Now, Howie,
let me take off my shirt. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh. Oh no! 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 Oh!
You could.
Oh!
No, wait. I made sure I had some hand sanitizer because on hand just in case.
That was actually really impressive.
He's probably done that exact same bit more than a dozen times at this point, and the reason why he constantly does really weird stuff like that is because Ethan and his podcast are essentially just the dollar store version of the Howard Stern Show.
Howard was like my inspiration for this show, not really podcasts. My dream was to have more acts and more stuff going on, which I think we can build up to.
He even paid tens of thousands of dollars in an attempt to copy Howard's set inch for inch at one point in his life.
Oh, call declined. Embarrassing.
And the problem with Ethan trying to be a Howard Stern clone is the fact that Howard got famous by being controversial and edgy.
You ever listen to my show, Howard Stern Show?
Yes.
You do? You like it?
Not particularly.
No, what don't you like about it?
You're rather crude.
I'm rather crude?
Yes.
Oh, how do you mean? Give me an example.
You're rather disgusting, and I don't care to give you an example.
So Ethan is trying to uphold himself as some paragon of moral virtue while simultaneously ripping off every aspect of someone who got famous for being an edgelord. And unfortunately, Ethan isn't as witty, funny, or charismatic as Howard was in his prime, so Ethan tries to copy Howard's early 2000s edgelord shtick, and it leads to some very odd and uncomfortable moments.
Liver King, now, do you have to have sex in a certain position because you're so big, and sometimes fat guys have a problem. They have to go into a certain position. I mean, you're massive, right? So, and also, I don't know how well endowed you are, but like, what's the situation with your what position? Do you have to go in a position, or are you guys fully flexible? Because you're both very muscular.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Never talk about my wife in this context.
And by adopting a style that's similar to Howard Stern's shock jock era, Ethan not only does things that are the exact opposite of maturity, but it's also genuinely hurtful in some cases. For example, Howard famously had his whack pack where he'd get people like Beetlejuice to be on his show so him and his fans could just laugh at them.
Spanish, man? Yeah, I speak Spanish.
Hey, Pete, you know...
Oh, yeah! Fuck you piece of...
Hey, yell at him in Spanish. Yell at him.
Yeah! You motherfucker, you motherfucker!
And remember how he criticized Leafy for making fun of that autistic man 8 years ago?
And I mean, if you look at Leafy's channel, all he does is make fun of kids and like vulnerable people, like Joey's World Tour. There's no sport in making fun of these people. It's just sad. They don't need to be made fun of.
Ironically enough, Ethan now has his very own whack pack called the Goof Gang, and he now does exactly what he criticized Leafy for 8 years ago, almost every week.
We're gonna have to celebrate this beautiful man, Gabe, the White Claw in the world, the one and only, shitting in my nostrils and pooping it out of my ears. How about this? How about this? Snorting shit and spitting it out of my mouth.
Ew. Yeah, snorting shit and spitting it out of my mouth. Oh my God.
And this isn't just about one clip or one isolated incident, but rather the consistent pattern of behavior. Ethan has made more than 8 hours of content just making fun of Gabe, mocking him, and just straight up treating the guy like a circus clown. And it's not just Gabe he does this to, there's Jimmy Lee, Shoe Nice, Shirtless Eddie, and many more. Yet, when the Goof Gang gets compared to Howard's whack pack, Ethan has the audacity to get offended by that.
I don't like the comparison. I'm not saying anything. I want to make it clear though, because the whack pack's a Howard Stern thing, and I feel like the people that he brings on like that, he's way more, I want to say, judgmental and rude to. I hope that we have more of a mutual respect.
Unlike Ethan, I am not going to pretend like this is something that it's not. The interactions that Ethan has with his Goof Gang is just straight up implicit bullying, and there is no debate to be had there. All of the proof is on video, and it's undeniable. He's taking someone who he has 100% full control over due to his position as a large YouTuber, and having them say and do things strictly because he's in the position of power, and Ethan and his crew and his audience all sit there laughing at and not with the members of the Goof Gang.
Have you ever gone down on a girl, Gabe? Stop.
No.
Have you ever? You haven't. Is that something you're looking to try?
Yeah, someday.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
I practice in front of the mirror.
Oh my God! Can you do it right now? Pretend you're in front of the mirror. Oh, you have a lot to learn.
Keep practicing, buddy.
There you go. Oh, you're ready to go, Gabe. You're gonna make a girl very happy.
And not only is this behavior absolutely reprehensible, but it also normalizes cruelty towards those who might be more susceptible to manipulation. For example, just a few months ago, Ethan brought a man named C-Man onto his show and asked him for a picture of his regional area on numerous occasions.
Can I ask your permission for something, C-Man? If you will permit us, can we tweet out the photo of your so the audience can see it, and then we can get kind of the audience's opinion? Because there is a lot of...
Maybe later.
Listen, we've got through the niceties. Let's cut to the meat here, the girth of it. Can I tweet the picture of your... I mean, you are...
Picture, Mike?
So there's a picture, one public video that you made. It's you with two dudes, and you all are having a good time. And you pan down to your real fast. So that's the photo. I was going to ask for your permission if I could post it to Twitter so that the fans can share their opinion on the size of it.
They want to share the opinion, that's fine. I don't mind. You can do it.
You would have thought that maturity would mean understanding that if someone says no or is clearly uncomfortable with what you're asking, you drop it, but Ethan actually managed to do the exact opposite right there. He pushed and pressured C-Man to send him a photo of his private area on a live stream in front of 40,000 people just so he could tweet out the photo for millions to see, all as an attempt at humor. Now I see why the guy needs his fans to make his jokes for him.
I want your guys' stuff. Help me be funnier. I'm not funny. I don't have the time to make segments. You make segments for us.
And guess what? It actually gets worse. C-Man then went on the H3 subreddit and stuck up for himself and essentially said he didn't feel good about what had happened on the show, and of course, Ethan and their crew then immediately permanently banned him from the H3 subreddit, and they haven't had him on the show since.
Like it's a fucking cult. Like he actually cuts people off.
As another example, last year they brought a man named Shirtless Eddie on, and as soon as he got there, they did an hour-and-a-half long bit where Ethan pretended to go to the bathroom, but in reality they just left Eddie in the studio live all by himself for 45 minutes.
Okay, I'll be right back and then we'll hop into the next segment. Thanks.
Let's do this. Oh no. You're a fan of the show, and what have you seen some episodes? I trust Eddie.
The fact of the matter is, Ethan is a bully who only selectively targets those who he perceives as weak and vulnerable, like C-Man or Gabe, then he implicitly clowns on them and makes them the butt of every joke. And I find this bullying to be hilarious coming from Ethan of all people, because the last time someone exposed Ethan for the absolute lolcow that he is, he immediately retreated and adopted the position of understanding and acceptance like the little weasel that he truly is.
What have people been saying about me recently? That I'm a hypocrite, that I prioritize money over everything else, that I've thrown friends under the bus, that I'm ignorant and poorly informed, and spread misinformation, that I'm arrogant, that I cannot handle criticism, and that I've used people. And let me just say this, okay, for the record, that I am guilty of all of those things.
The guy was actually so scared of Gokanaru that it took him 2 full years just to react to his YouTube video about him. So he's more than happy to bully others, but when he gets obliterated in front of millions, suddenly the guy can't even engage with the very behavior that he has spent years perpetrating.
A little rat, a little weasel, a little hard man in groups. I've met many of them through my years. A man who grows in numbers, but on his own, and when confronted in a similar situation, cowers away.
Oh, and of course, there's a hypocritical aspect to the Goof Gang. He's also extensively criticized David Dobrik for participating in relationships with unfair power imbalances.
Of course, Seth never got the clout, just like this guy Jonah and Big Nick, is because people only get as much clout as David wants them to, because he portrays Seth and Jonah and Big Nick as the punching bags, as the jokes. And of course, they're not going to be respected by the fan base. So, of course, they're never going to get their own fans because people who do follow them probably don't respect them to begin with because they're coming from David.
And last but certainly not least, the number one thing that definitively and irrefutably proves Ethan's blatant lack of maturity and growth as a person is the fact that he had to pay $20,000 for a button to cut out the garbage that he says when he's live so he doesn't get canceled every other episode.
We're getting a very expensive piece of hardware that they use in like the NBA, and it allows you to erase part of a live stream. It's very interesting. It's high-tech stuff.
It's not high-tech at all. It's existed since the 70s.
Oh, come on, bro. I'm trying to... It's expensive.
Yeah, everybody's familiar with it on a level. I mean, it's a dump switch. It's what prevents people if they curse on broadcast television or something so that they don't get banned or fined by the FCC.
Yeah, so we're going to implement that.
Yeah, most of us just use the free version of that. It's called pausing for a second to think. The reality is, if Ethan had actually matured or changed for the better like he claims, he wouldn't say so much messed up stuff that he even needs a button in the first place.
He's going to attack my dad, right? I can at least defend my dad by saying he didn't abandon me in a fucking gift basket to the neighborhood orphanage. There's a lot of sadness there. And he's an orphan. I don't mean that as an insult. It's just a statement of fact.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to deal with.
I think, like...
that brings a lot of damage. I wish I could make fun of his dad. I just don't know who he is. And sadly, neither does he. I mean, I think because he's an orphan, he has like deep abandonment issues. I'm just making educated guess here. He was literally an orphan. And I'm not saying that to be insulting.
Yes, you are.
It's just a statement of fact. Like, he ended up in an orphan. His mom clearly didn't want him. And, if abortion was...
I don't know where you're going with this point. I don't think you're making the point you think you are.
If abortion was... Right. And it's not Keem's fault. It's his dad's fault for being a deadbeat.
Obviously, everyone is going to make mistakes, especially when they've been making content for as long as Ethan has. But these situations aren't all just mistakes or coincidences. These are intentionally bad things that he does and says as a fully conscious, sober, fully grown adult. An actual mistake was what Ethan criticized his friend PewDiePie for. In 2017, he said the N-word one time, apologized, and to the best of my knowledge, he hasn't said it again. In Ethan's case, what I've presented here is a clear pattern of behavior where Ethan verbally claims to be mature and his fans eat it up like hotcakes because they have parasocial relationships with him, and that ends up feeding his ego through confirmation bias, so he thinks he's actually matured, and then he turns around and acts like Prime Leafy when he was 19, except Ethan's not 19, he's 38.
I'm just saying, if you're gonna shut up anything...
Don't make it.
Ethan is edgy and shocking, which is a really cool thing for a 50-year-old guy to be. Isn't it cool?
At the end of the day, maybe the real maturity is in recognizing when to laugh, when to reflect, and when to call out nonsense.
If you give no effort, if you got no money, then I got a cheap method. Crack it open, throw it in a pan and let it cook, bitch. Now that's a real education, fuck books.
Ethan Klein has been scamming his fans for years now, and I find that to be quite ironic, given the fact that he's been simultaneously calling other YouTubers out that entire time for every single type of scam that he's ever personally done.
David Dobrik has fallen off so hard. This man is he's involved in a crypto scam called Bored Bunny NFT. Down bad.
Of course, if you want to call out scumbags like David for scamming their fans, I'm on your side. But if you're gonna call someone out for doing something indefensible like that, you can't just turn around and do the exact same thing that you just called someone else out for.
It's like being slapped in the face, and because it's so obvious, you feel that it's so disingenuous.
So the first scam I want to cover is the H3 NFT collection, which Ethan seems to have really gotten away with, because I've never seen anyone calling him out for this. And I think the main reason why Ethan got away with this is because he pitched this to his audience as some sort of a joke, so he could make it seem like he was selling them ironically.
We have a lot to talk about here. We got some fucking tokens up in this bitch. I feel like I'm on the BitConnect side of selling. I'm gonna make so much money right now from you fucking suckers. BitConnect! I'm gonna be straight up BitConnect!
Unfortunately, this just wasn't a joke at all. Jokes are typically free. What Ethan did with his H3 NFT collection is the exact same thing that Logan Paul did with his Dink Doink scam, where he pretended like he was shilling Dink Doink as a joke.
Suck my dink, bro.
Dink? Dog just had a little bit of a...
Suck my dink. Nah, it's freaking Dink Doink.
Oh my god. This Dink Doink shit are you talking about?
It's a crypto meme coin, and it's It's hilarious. It's fucking hilarious.
Which, of course, Ethan absolutely lambasted Logan for. So, although the marketing could potentially be considered a joke in both cases, the part which involves exchanging money wasn't a joke at all, because Ethan and the crew sold about $150,000 worth of these NFTs. So, where is the joke? I'm looking for the punchline, but for some reason, I just can't seem to find it.
Can somebody tell me how Ethan Klein isn't a straight scam artist? Looking at this chart, literally rug pulled immediately. How is, guys, can we talk about how Ethan Klein is literally a scammer?
There is no punchline. No one has bought one of these NFTs in 3 years. So these investments, which he sold to his fans for thousands of dollars each, are now worth $0. And now that these NFTs are down 100%, Ethan has completely stopped talking about this NFT project, and he also hasn't refunded a single person who he scammed as a joke.
Your fans, your audience that trusts you, got scammed.
And instead of taking accountability for his actions, he's just moved on by instead criticizing other influencers for also scamming their fans through NFT projects.
You know, launch a NFT, girl. That's what everyone's doing. That's what all the shady pieces of shit are doing. Let's get you on the crypto.
Now, of course, it's not like the issue of scamming your fans is exclusive to just Ethan. If you guys didn't know, Jake Paul also created an NFT project himself, and I'm not gonna lie, it's actually one of my favorite NFT projects of all time.
What up, you dicks? The community, the community has grown like crazy over the past 24 hours. We're almost at 10,000 spermatosa on the Discord community, and we are just getting started.
Predictably, stick dicks are now down 100%, just like the H3 NFT. And I'm bringing this up to ask this one question. Looking at these two charts, how in the world is Ethan any different from Jake Paul in this case scenario? He isn't. They did the exact same thing. They both created NFT projects with zero utility, which everyone knows you can just screenshot and own for free, but they both sold out of them because they were sold to their fans as investment opportunities. And as a result of them both consciously deciding to take advantage of their fans, they both made a ton of money, and their fans ended up losing 100% of their money on that investment. So just to make this as clear as possible, when it comes to exploiting fan loyalty for monetary gain, Ethan Klein is the exact same thing as Logan and Jake Paul. Ruthless, cutthroat, morally bankrupt, and all rocking a haircut that makes you wonder if their barbers are also in on the scam.
Maybe say your joke again and we can all remember to laugh. Say it one more time, we can just all laugh afterwards, just so you feel good about yourself. Say it one more time for us.
And all rocking a haircut.
Would you shut the fuck up?
After the NFT debacle, Ethan then decided to funnel his fans' money into an even bigger scam, Kraken Crypto, which is a crypto trading platform which allows users to buy and sell crypto. And the CEO of Kraken, Jesse Powell, actually ended up buying one of the H3 NFTs, so Ethan went out of his way to have Jesse on his podcast so he could promote Kraken.
You really think it's still early?
I think so. I think Bitcoin is going to be $500,000.
Oh, stop it.
Within the next few years.
Huh.
Yeah, well, look at how much money printing is going on. Yeah,
So,
easily.
okay,
Easily, we're going to get to $1 million in Bitcoin.
And not only did Ethan bring the CEO of Kraken onto his show, he then went on to accept Kraken Crypto as an official sponsor for the podcast, and Ethan started shilling Kraken like his life depended on it.
You know Kraken Exchange, owned by our good friend of the show. He's the man. Jesse Powell, the man. From Kraken Exchange. Thank you to Kraken so much. We love the Kraken. Hey guys, if you're interested in investing in cryptocurrencies but aren't sure where to get started, go to kraken.com/h3 to learn more or search for Kraken. Jesse Powell, friend of the show, is the owner of Kraken. This guy is a solid, awesome dude, friend of the show. I would not hesitate to send everyone over to kraken.com/h3. Go to the Kraken app. With Kraken, you can buy and sell over 50 of the most popular cryptos like Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and Ethereum. Guys, a friend of the show. We love Kraken. So if you're interested in crypto, please consider going to kraken.com/h3. The sound of our most beautiful sponsor, Kraken. Friend of the show, trusted partners. We love the Kraken. Guys, once again, I like to emphasize Kraken, friend of the show. Jesse Powell was on the show. He had a great appearance. He's a great guy, and Kraken is one of the most trusted companies in the game. So if you're interested in crypto or exchanges or whatever, please use Kraken.
I just want to re-emphasize, according to Ethan's own words, Kraken is a friend of the show, he highly recommends using Kraken, and it's the best option to buy crypto. Obviously, none of that is true. Kraken is one of the shadiest crypto exchanges out there, and that is proven definitively by their 1.48 out of 5 Better Business Bureau rating. In addition to being horrendously rated by their own customers, Kraken was fined $400,000 for violating US sanctions against Iran. In February of 2023, Kraken also settled a $30 million lawsuit with the SEC because they failed to register the offer and sale of their crypto asset staking as a service program, where investors would transfer crypto assets to Kraken for staking in exchange for advertised annual investment returns as high as 21%, which would literally break the entire world's economy if that was actually possible. Then, just a few months later, in November of 2023, Kraken was officially charged by the SEC for operating as an unregistered securities exchange, where it's alleged that Kraken has deficient internal controls and poor record-keeping practices, which could potentially lead to losses for Ethan's fans and Kraken's customers. It's also alleged that they commingled their customer funds with their own, which is essentially what Sam Bankman-Fried is in jail for right this second. So Ethan basically promoted FTX.
I might have just spread a bunch of misinformation. Fuck it. See if that's true.
We made this one up. It's a total fabrication.
In all seriousness, where was Ethan's due diligence into this company before accepting Kraken as a sponsor? Because from the outside looking in, looks like he took the money Jesse threw at his NFTs and immediately started unconditionally promoting Kraken without even thinking about it twice. And once again, he's done and said absolutely nothing to right his fans that he's wronged.
Yo, this guy, Ethan Klein, is such a freaking scammer. I hope this guy goes to jail.
By promoting volatile investments like crypto without transparent disclosure of risks to his millions of followers, Ethan has not only personally capitalized on his audience's trust in him, but he also led certain members of his audience to literally invest into Ponzi schemes, even by his own admission.
Outside of like Bitcoin and Ethereum and like a few other ones that are really reputable and have like, I would just, dude, I feel like these are all Ponzi schemes where people are just trying to trick someone else to buy so they can sell it higher.
Ethan's promotion of Kraken wasn't just the endorsement of one singular crypto scam like Aiden Ross did with MILF Token or his friend Tana Mongoose did with Titscoin. The promotion of Kraken was a direct endorsement for his fans to buy and sell not just one specific crypto like Bitcoin or Ethereum. It was him producing income directly off of his fans buying and selling all cryptocurrencies, which is a major contradiction to Ethan's words about crypto when he's not being bought and paid for by our guy Jesse. And I just love this thing Ethan does where he intentionally positions himself as the good guy because he's lost out on sponsors as a result of them not working with crypto companies anymore.
I'm still crying over all the Bitcoin sponsorships we've lost though, all the crypto sponsorships we've lost as a result of changing our stance.
Yeah. Oh well.
Did your bank account change its stance back to the level it was at before the crypto scams, or did you first pocket hundreds of thousands of dollars before just verbally changing your stance? I am a YouTuber. I get offered to scam my fans. There's always a crypto casino or crypto project or gambling website emailing me, and I never respond. And it's certainly not because I'm a good person. In fact, I am horrendous. I'm the guy who consistently team kills my teammates in Fortnite. Yet, despite me being so awful, I still cannot bring myself to stoop so low for money that I have the urge to financially ruin the lives of the people who are the only reason why I even have a career for personal gain, unlike Ethan.
If you don't give a fuck how you make your money, then if you're an influencer, you know, crypto's a great spot.
Look, it's one thing to scam your fans, but it's a whole other level of psychopathy to then turn around and criticize others for the exact same thing that you know for a fact you've already done.
I was talking about how crypto and NFTs are pretty much scams and I'm over working with them, or, I mean, I've come to the it's been a slow coming realization. I mean, obviously there's been like shit coins like SafeMoon.
I mean, we sold NFTs here on this show.
Right, that was just like an experiment.
Oh, okay, guys, it was just an experiment. So, according to Ethan, stealing about $150,000 and railing your fans with an NFT that's now down 100% and promoting Ponzi schemes for money is totally fine as long as it's just an experiment. How can one individual live for such an extended period of time and somehow manage to actually become successful in that period of time, yet lack self-awareness to this degree? He unironically just hit us with the "it's just a prank, bro," as if he wasn't one of the people who literally popularized making fun of prank channels who say it's just a prank, bro.
You have to love and appreciate that he dropped a "it's just a prank, bro."
And if the crypto scams weren't enough, we also have the fact that Ethan has promoted gambling on his channel in the past, which of course he now explicitly speaks out against.
Gambling is such a fucking venomous it's just such a toxic, poisonous activity. I know that Aiden specifically is very young. He's willing to turn a blind eye to hooking kids to gambling, which is extremely, extremely dangerous, damaging vice. I learned the other day from a son, actually.
It's the worst of all, pretty much.
Exactly. They call it the deadliest vice because the most amount of people commit suicide from getting addicted to gambling.
I agree with him 100%, but as you probably know by now, the guy just can't handle having a good take without being a hypocrite.
And if you have not tried DraftKings yet, head to the App Store now.
How about no? Like, no?
Now, Ethan didn't promote DraftKings extensively like he did with Kraken, which is definitely still bad because of the hypocrisy, but it's not the worst thing in the world like XQC or Trainwrecks who promote it constantly. However, my issue with his promotion of DraftKings is the fact that he completely lied when he tried to defend himself from people criticizing him for this hypocrisy.
Oh yeah, and I did one DraftKings ad, like, must have been like 6 years ago. We did one DraftKings ad for fantasy football.
On the podcast?
Yeah, we did one DraftKings ad a long time ago. And the thing was, it was for a fantasy football league. I didn't know, or I had clarified, is this sports gambling or is this just fantasy? And I think I was under the impression it was just fantasy. We did one ad with them and never worked with them again.
Almost every single word in that statement is verifiably false. First of all, they didn't do one DraftKings ad, they did two.
And DraftKings, the leader in one-day fantasy sports, is putting you back into poverty.
Lying on video like this is egregious. He's speaking into a microphone, looking directly into a camera lens, and just lying through his teeth, then posting the proof of him lying to the internet, knowing for a fact that one day someone like me would debunk it.
It's like just lie. Whatever it is that you need, just lie about it.
Thank you. He's a real psychopath. This is like really psychopathic behavior.
Yeah, I agree. That is psychotic. Ethan also claimed that he didn't know DraftKings was gambling. He thought it was just fantasy football, which I have a really hard time believing. One quick Google search proves that DraftKings has been in the sports gambling business since 2018. So either he's admitting that he doesn't do even an ounce of due diligence before he accepts a sponsor, or he's lying. Either way, not a good look. Next, Ethan says the ad was like 6 years ago, which again is a lie. That clip is from 2023, and the clips of him promoting DraftKings are both from 2020. In what world could a 3-year difference be considered like 6 years ago? He could have potentially forgotten small details. At the end of the day, he's human. But notice how every single thing he just so happened to misremember benefits himself.
He's actually wrong about everything he's saying. It's incredible. You can just say anything you want, and people just, for some reason, listen.
Ethan and Gila's next quest to milk their fans out of all their hard-earned money is their merch company, Teddy Fresh, and in my opinion, it is by far the worst, most manipulative, dishonest YouTube merch company ever created. I'd even go as far as calling it a scam, but first let's set the groundwork and take a look at exactly what the problems with Teddy Fresh are. First things first, we have the fact that you basically need to have a parasocial relationship with Ethan and Gila to ever buy one of their merch items. If we take a look at their website, there is not a single reasonably priced piece of clothing on the entire website, ranging from this $145 Magic the Gathering jacket, whatever the hell this is, for $120, or this Fursona hoodie with bear ears that they're selling for only $105.
Ugh. Brother, ugh. What's that? What's that, brother?
Brother, I can't even begin to tell you what that is. These are so bad and so overpriced, Ethan and Gila owe both you and me money for even having the audacity to make us look at this garbage for free. So this is where the parasocial relationship aspect starts to come in. You see, Ethan makes well over 10 hours of content a week, and he doesn't do that because he's so passionate about podcasting. The guy is lazier than my dad on a Sunday night.
That's one of my big problems, frankly, is I have a crushing disease of just
being lazy. I just have that's been the obstacle of my whole life. It's just persistent, aggressive laziness.
So it's not because he has some insane work ethic. Making the amount of content that they make is a calculated move that they've made in order to deepen those parasocial bonds with their audience. And when someone develops a parasocial relationship with their favorite creator, they start to develop things like the illusion of friendship with the creator. And that leads to people being more inclined to doing irrational things, like buying a $150 hoodie or two, or maybe even an NFT. And Ethan and Gila know this to be true, so they really try hard to lean into the parasocial aspect as much as humanly possible. For example, some of the show's employees were literally just fans of the show before they were hired, like AB, who Ethan only knows because he made a video defending Ethan from Gokanaru in 2018. And that leads fans to believe that they could potentially get hired there too. Ethan also refers to his fans as family,
family, family, family, family, family, family, family. Stop!
We're like a weird cult.
The friendliest of cults.
Absolutely.
Which I find to be hilarious, because the last people on Earth I would ever want to scam or promote gambling to would be members of my family, but I guess Ethan disagrees. He also consistently reads the chat while they're doing the podcast live, he checks the comments on their subreddit on the show live, and that leads to posts like this. Did they order food today? I'm trying to decide on dinner, and I'll probably get whatever they ordered today while watching the episode. Which should be a crime. Almost every other week, there's a new post which claims that this person who consistently takes time out of their day to post comments and make posts on Reddit went on a date, which is obviously inherently impossible, and then they almost always mention how their date didn't like Ethan and how that's a deal breaker for them, which is just insane to me. Imagine going on a date and the first thing your date brings up is this cringe podcast they listen to for 20 hours a week. That is crazy. We all know that real Riz involves nothing but repeating Alex Jones quotes word for word.
See, my superpower is being honest. I'll eat your ass. I will.
And speaking of insane, how could we forget the greatest H3H3 production subreddit post of all time? I got Ethan tattooed, which I am absolutely not going to be making fun of this person for.
I'm not upset with y'all because I know you're mentally ill, which is why one day I'm going to open up a hospital for mentally ill.
So Ethan and Gila intentionally do things to ensure that they build parasocial relationships with as many of their audience members as humanly possible. Then they exploit those parasocial relationships for profit through excessive amounts of content creation and high prices for their garbage merchandise. That is their business model. It is unethical, manipulative, and anti-consumer. And while I understand building a community is central to content creation, exploiting those who support you through irrefutably overpriced merch is scummy no matter how you cut it.
I agree, 100%. Yeah.
Another major issue with Teddy Fresh is the fact that the company is inherently hypocritical, which of course it is, it's co-owned by Ethan Klein, but Ethan and Gila both do this act where they pretend to be against what's called fast fashion.
Do not shop at Fashion Nova. It's bullshit. It's fast fashion. They make it in China. It's disposable.
If you can't afford religion $100 jeans.
Fast fashion is literally the most polluting, one of the biggest polluters in the whole planet.
Not everyone can afford $70 jeans. Fashion Nova offers them for $12.
Just buy one instead of
size 20.
Bro, you know when you're buying jeans for $12 that somebody's dying.
Fast fashion is essentially companies who emphasize speed and low cost to deliver frequent new collections, which often leads to significant waste and exploitation of labor, which sounds like a pretty noble thing to be against. However, despite the selective outrage, Teddy Fresh is literally a fast fashion brand.
Gila, it seems like TF is turning into a fast fashion brand.
Huh?
And I was like, that's why I wasn't listening to you, because I was like, what? And it's with the pace at which you guys are coming out with new stuff, is it even fair trade and environment friendly?
Same as it's always
been. It's the same as it always been, and it's the same as any other fashion company. We work a year ahead, and I mean, it's nowhere near fast.
No. Nice try. I don't know what you're even talking about.
Unfortunately, pretending to be confused by a straightforward and reasonable statement like that just isn't a valid defense. Fast fashion doesn't literally mean it's designed fast. It's the concept of constantly shoving new products in the consumer's face and convincing them that they need this new style or trend, and because most normal people who don't live in $10 million mansions have limited amounts of closet space, some people end up buying new clothes and throwing out the old clothes that they have, and sometimes those clothes end up in landfills, and on a mass scale that contributes significantly to environmental pollution. Fast fashion is not just about how quickly the clothes are made, but how the behaviors of the fast fashion companies negatively impact the environment. Also, keep in mind, this is the same company that sells shirts like this that says, "Our planet is dying, the ocean is rising, the air is poison, and I can't find a date." Now, the end is obviously a joke, but the shirt in general is an attempt to profit off of virtue signaling about how we need to save the environment. However, as we can clearly see here, this is the entire H3 crew on a private charter jet, which is inarguably one of the worst possible things for the environment. Now, obviously it's their money, they earned it, and they can do whatever they want with it. But what you can't do is hop on a charter jet under any possible circumstance that's not an absolute last-minute emergency, then turn around and sell merch that insinuates you and your company care about the environment. Either care about the environment and ride in a regular plane with the rest of us peasants, or get on a charter jet whenever you want and just don't say a word about the environment or try and profit off of environmental virtue signaling. It's really not that hard. Teddy Fresh's decision to manufacture their clothing in China also raises some significant ethical questions about the company. Now, obviously, just because something is made in China does not in any way automatically mean that the clothes are bad quality, nor does it mean that they're definitively using slave or child labor to manufacture their products. Unless you ask Ethan, of course.
Trust me, that shit is made by children slaves in China. Don't sue me, please. Peace and love.
Stop the Asian hate.
But their choice to manufacture their clothing in China does tell us a lot about the brand's lack of integrity. The primary issue with Chinese manufacturing is the fact that the Chinese government exerts full control over labor unions, which severely limits the ability for workers to form independent unions and effectively advocate for better conditions and rights. And that is a real problem with Chinese manufacturing that Ethan and Gila will conveniently never even begin to acknowledge because it's the absolute truth, and there is no valid argument that you can make to defend that. And as a couple which pretends to espouse progressive values, I'm not gonna lie, I would have thought they would at least place an ounce of emphasis on the importance of pretty simple things like workers' rights, fair wages, etc. for the people that they produce income off of. If Ethan and Gila truly cared about the values that they pretend to preach, the US has plenty of manufacturers that can ethically produce their significantly overpriced clothing. My favorite socialist, and Ethan's former podcast co-host,
Hassan Packer,
has a totally not capitalistic merch brand where they manufacture all of their clothing in the US, and their prices are still significantly lower than Teddy Fresh. So I have to give credit where credit is due. Although the guy is definitely a red-blooded American capitalist, Hassan's merch line somehow manages to fit the vision of Teddy Fresh 1,000 times better than Teddy Fresh itself does. And now that we have undeniable evidence that you can ethically produce merch in the US and still produce income off of it, what exactly is stopping Ethan and Gila from at least trying to work with a union shop in a country where we could come as close as possible to ensuring safe and regulated working conditions for those who work for them?
In China, they do stuff that like you can't get done here. And they're great at it. They're the best at it. The conditions are good. And if you try to do what you do in China here, if people think clothing is expensive, try making it in America. I mean, like a hoodie like this, if you made it in America, first of all, I just got to say.
I mean, I can tell you right now, I work with unionized domestic manufacturers, and finding like garment production with those standards has been probably the most difficult part of the process.
You may not be able to. And if you do, a hoodie like this is going to run hundreds.
Oh, okay, so that's what's stopping them. Lies. Because according to Ethan Klein, a man who's been in the merch business since 2017, by the way, a US manufactured hoodie will run you hundreds. So I was wrong. Hassan's merch brand is actually a socialist organization. They spend $350 making these hoodies and sell them for $35 at a 90% loss.
I'm a capitalist, bro. I love capitalism, dude. It's my favorite thing.
It's like a kink, really.
In all seriousness, Ethan and Gila's profit margins would go down if they stopped working with their current Chinese manufacturers, so they're just not going to do that. What's going to happen is Ethan will continue sitting on his high horse, and he's going to continue criticizing others for the exact same things that he consciously chooses to do.
The most obvious signs would include use of words associated with unions or union-led movements like living wage or steward.
Living wage! If anyone mentions living wage, report them. Grievance. Living wage. What the f? That's not a union word. That's someone who wants a living wage. Okay, moving on to the next crime here. Stealing designs from a smaller designer.
Our favorite.
Yeah, we're very familiar with this.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. According to Ethan and Gila themselves, they're very familiar with stealing designs. And of course, Ethan has criticized other clothing brands for stealing designs, and he's also pointed out that one indicator of a fast fashion brand is the fact that they often steal designs to increase turnaround time.
So these fast fashion companies, they literally do like what James Charles did, but even worse. They just mass produce, they rip off designs.
Now, I allege that Teddy Fresh steals designs in my last video on Ethan, but despite the evidence that I provided, there was still some room for it to potentially be debatable. This time around, I am going to provide undeniable, irrefutable evidence that Teddy Fresh steals designs.
Here's the deal, I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence, and nobody can hang with my stuff. You know, I'm just a big, hairy American winning machine.
First things first, I found the alleged H3H3 Productions Pinterest account. You can find this by just Googling H3H3 Productions Pinterest. As we can see here, it was linked to their Google Plus account, and this picture here is a screenshot of what I believe to be Ethan's Instagram feed, because as you can see here, this was his old profile picture. Also, if you look through some of these Glassdoor reviews, one of the former employees who allegedly worked there directly claimed that they steal designs off of Pinterest way before the Pinterest account became public knowledge. Now, none of that is 100% definitive, but on this Pinterest account, we can also see that they saved this design from Prada. And as you can see here, they then went on to create almost the exact same product and sold it as their own.
Coincidence? I think not!
But let's be charitable and just say the Pinterest account isn't actually theirs. Regardless, they absolutely, positively, still to this day steal designs from other companies. For example, Steal a Klein recently posted this picture in denim Teddy Theft overalls. And as you can see here, this is almost the exact same product that Tommy Hilfiger was selling in the 90s, almost 30 years ago. Then we have these pants, which are just outright hideous, which they also most likely stole the design of, and that's verified by the fact that the branding is in almost the exact same location in these nearly identical pants. Then we have this one, which is obviously a very, very simple design, but it's also an undeniable inch-for-inch copy of Supreme hoodies and beanies. The box logo branding is in almost the exact same spot, and they copied the colorways exactly. Here, I think they stole this design from Philip Plein. They changed the head of the teddy bear a little bit, but if you look at the shoulders, you can see that they're the exact same shape, proving the alleged theft. I could go on for days here, but I'm sure you get the point by now. Now, just to clarify this, when you're doing a creative job like creating clothes or making a video or starting a podcast, there is absolutely no problem with taking inspiration from something or someone. Everyone does that. However, there is a massive difference between inspiration and theft. What Teddy Fresh does is theft. Then they turn around and accuse others of stealing designs from them.
So here's this hoodie, and then here's our hoodie. It's the same sleeve color.
Hi, sisters!
Teal and purple. The same body color, it's just a little lighter, really. Same hood, even the hood and the drawstring are yellow. The sleeves are yellow. I mean, it's literally exactly the same.
Now, James absolutely did copy Teddy Fresh. The colors are the exact same, that's undeniable, and he should be called out for that. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because Ethan and Gila like to use the argument of blaming everything on their employees whenever the company that they own gets called out for stealing designs.
Okay, Teddy Fresh, we have designers, right? And we have a fairly large company. This is a common problem in all streetwear. We've had designers who have pretty much close to stole designs. We fired people over it, and every time it comes up, we have company meetings and say, guys, this is unacceptable. If you're caught doing this, you will be fired.
And we've made a strict guideline, and it doesn't happen anymore.
What have
it
you
hasn't
done?
happened.
What have you done to prevent it?
However, they must have forgotten that they made this exact opposite argument on video against James.
But I love that he thinks that if he personally didn't know about the hoodie, then it's fine. It's like, no, you run a company. Your employees maybe stole the design and you didn't know, but it's still your product. I'm still gonna talk to you. I'm not gonna go talk to one of your employees.
So I would give them the benefit of the doubt here, but they unfortunately just haven't offered that same charitability to others. By the standards that they held James to, Ethan and Hila are just as guilty as James. And when Ethan debated XQ Cucks on how he steals content, he accused them of stealing designs, and when he said that, they had the audacity to claim that their stealing is defensible.
Holy shit, I'm about to come at you guys for stealing some designs. Jesus Christ, bro.
You're being pretty silly, but ours is defensible, yours is not. Or at least we've made, it's not defensible, but anyway, you know what? I mean, I don't see this conversation going much.
Guys, it is defensible thievery, guys.
It's
stealing in the right way.
No, I retracted that as soon as I said it, right? What you heard. I said we've corrected the error, an understandable error, in my opinion.
Although Ethan did verbally retract that almost immediately, the problem is they haven't actually corrected this at all. As of me writing this blatantly stolen design from Tommy Hilfiger is still up for sale on their website. The core issue here is the fact that the owners of this company are clearly 100% complicit in the fact that their company steals designs, which is why I could make a whole separate 30-minute deep dive video into all of the designs that Teddy Fresh has plagiarized over the years, but because I'm a nice guy, I will show some restraint and not do that. And just to clarify this, there are licensing agreements that are done behind the scenes for certain designs in the clothing industry, and they like to hide behind that fact because those licensing agreements do not need to be publicly disclosed. However, Teddy Fresh stole this design from this man named Gary Kennedy's knitting book, which is just inexcusable. I genuinely can't imagine being so creatively uninspired that I have to steal directly from a knitting book, but they did admit to stealing the design from that book, and then they decided to release a collaboration with Gary Kennedy, the man that they stole from. I will admit that it's great that they corrected the error, but if you're a multi-millionaire selling $70 t-shirts, you absolutely have the money and profit margins to pay designers to produce original clothing. So it's inexcusable to still be stealing designs till this day, and it's even more inexcusable for Ethan to ever criticize any other fashion or merch brand.
I am against fast fashion. It's very bad for the world. And usually they steal their designs too from other people.
I'm just saying. Fresh has been accused of stealing some designs from.
Really?
Like,
I don't think so.
So regardless of whether or not they even steal designs, Teddy Fresh is a complete scam in my opinion. Every single aspect about this business, from the way they get customers in the door, to the way that the clothes are produced, to the products themselves, to the blatant hypocrisy of the owners, is absolutely atrocious. And most importantly, their pricing goes to show exactly how delusional and disconnected from reality Ethan and Hila are nowadays. I think part of the appeal of these two back in the day was how normal they appeared to be, and now Hila Klein is busy shilling $120 sweaters and telling people 35 is too cheap for a t-shirt.
Is this really, from your perspective, I'm going to ask you seriously, is this good merch?
It's very good. 35 is too cheap. 35 is too cheap.
It's too cheap?
Yeah.
Yo, is this person fucking retarded?
Yes. If you're comfortable publicly saying 35 is too cheap for a t-shirt that's been made in China, you're no longer living in the same reality as the rest of us.
Oh,
boy.
That is so delusional.
And speaking of delusional, Ethan tries to do this straw man argument where he pretends like people only call him greedy because of his identity.
I feel like people make that characterization against me because I'm Jewish. Let me explain. If you compare me to any other creator, I'm just as money driven as any of them. But for some reason, I get this label as like,
money driven and greedy and all this, even though I'm doing literally the same thing as everybody else.
He's acting like it's impossible for those who dislike him to separate individual behavior from vague stereotypes which define millions of individual human beings. I obviously can't speak for everyone, but when people call Ethan greedy, I would assume it's because he's publicly done things which only a greedy person would do. For example, I haven't even mentioned the H3 Ball Rider app, which was nothing but a microtransaction-filled cash grab. And when you combine that with the DraftKings, with the NFTs, with the Kraken crypto, with the overpriced, partially stolen design clothing that's made in China, with the channel memberships, with the ad revenue, with the sponsors, with the real estate, of course, at a certain point, it's totally reasonable to call someone greedy without being anti-Semitic.
Every time we do anything and make any money, it's all about, oh, I'm Jewish and I'm greedy.
Come on, man. No, it's not. Obviously, there are real cases of anti-Semitism, and that should be condemned to the highest degree.
I am the least anti-Semitic person that you've ever seen in your entire life.
But I honestly don't believe that Ethan gets called greedy because he's Jewish in most cases. I think there's plenty of evidence here which proves that he probably gets called greedy because he's just as greedy as every other influencer who also publicly scams their fans.
How much money do you need to make? Why do you need to scam people for an extra billion? Your bank is already worth trillions of dollars. Why? I don't understand that level of greed. Like, wealth is useful to an extent. If you have $1 billion, what is an additional dollar worth to you?
And just as my annual PSA to the YouTube community, when influencers like Ethan publicly scam their fans, they do make money, and a lot of it at that, but they also get placed at the top of my list.
I will look for you. I will find you.
And I just will not stop until I have extensively documented these scams for everyone to know just how scummy some of these YouTubers like Ethan are. Because once the people know that, long term these con artists actually end up losing money in most cases because we work in an industry that is 100% based on the people. And on a mass scale, the people will not continuously support creators like Ethan, who they know for a fact would have stolen every dollar from them if they could have.
Don't tell me you're innocent, because it insults my intelligence. It makes me very angry.
I'm gonna watch everything you do for 20 years, and if I find anything you've ever done bad in your whole life, I'm gonna try to ruin your life. I'm gonna follow you everywhere. I just despise this stupid little fucking shtick. It's such a grifter. You cannot change your mind. If you ever change your mind, you are wrong. And you're a phony, actually. You creep. You filth. You're castrated by your political ideology.
When it comes to politics, Ethan Klein is one of the biggest frauds in all of America, and I think that's quite ironic because he often uses the term grifter as an insult to the people that he doesn't like.
Simple hates me. He's a total grifter. I think she's actually a grifter, like in the true sense. Grifter, pseudo guru, Russell Brand. You know, right? When grifter is one of the best paying jobs in the world. But I feel like he's such a grifter. You fucking grifter, scam artist, openly racist loser. This is what really makes me think Charlie Kirk is a straight up grifter that doesn't even believe what he says.
And what makes Ethan such a grifter in terms of politics is the fact that a big part of his come up on YouTube was making content that could be classified as anti-SJW, where he would essentially just clown on irrational people for being irrational. You have to understand, in 2016, things were very, very different than they are now, and making anti-SJW content was by far the most profitable back in the day. So, Ethan, being the man of principle that he is, decided to hop on the trend.
I feel like this video perfectly encapsulates how crazy the social justice warrior has gotten, how sensitive these people are.
You want my name?
Yeah, sure.
It's humongous.
Okay. Humongous what? Humongous what?
Humongous.
Humongous what?
Humongous.
This person just spoke to me in a sexually harassing way.
I did not.
Yeah, he did. He said, do you know what my name is? And I said, what? And he said, humongous. Yeah. Yeah. This person just sexually harassed me.
And here's the craziest twist. She's the one who uploaded this video.
And what made those videos stand out back in the day was the fact that Ethan wasn't hateful at all when he made those videos. It wasn't some attack on the left or liberalism. He made jokes about insane people. Nowadays, I am 100% comfortable labeling him a far left extremist, just like the people he used to make fun of. For example, he is one of the biggest advocates of cancel culture on the entire internet. As I mentioned earlier, he unconditionally supports attacking people's sponsors, and he even celebrates when those who he subjectively dislikes get deplatformed.
So anyway, he got banned, so we'd love to see it.
See you, old partners.
See ya, partner. Count ban of the year 2020, the winner, by a very close margin, is Leafy! Leafy, who lost it all. He was banned on YouTube and Twitch.
So that's his livelihood. That's
He's
what you're
pretty
talking about?
much, yeah, he's pretty much off. He's like Alex Jones, like, see ya.
In addition to that, he also consistently wishes death upon those who disagree with his personal political opinions.
I was just gonna say, if there's another house and people start rounding up the Jews, I just say, if they start rounding up the Jews again, I hope Ben gets first or last. Actually talking about there at the NRA meeting that's today in Texas, someone should that building. Is it bad advice to say, like, go outside Ted Cruz's house and just air?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Those are some of the most hateful and atrocious clips I have ever seen, and the fact that he hasn't faced significant repercussions for this behavior is a massive problem in my opinion.
Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
Now, I know that some of Ethan's fans would argue that anything Ethan ever says can be written off as an innocent joke, but using Ethan's own words, we can immediately disprove that false narrative.
Extremists, it's a well-known tactic where they mask really extremist things as jokes to probe the limit of what they can get away with saying.
So, Ethan, are you masking your extremism with jokes, or is the audience only expected to recognize your genuine stances when it aligns with your interests?
The joke defense doesn't work, ever.
Keep in mind, this is the same guy who previously went out of his way to criticize Leafy for making a joke that was exactly like the type of jokes that he makes nowadays.
Bye-bye Pokemon, haha. Someone says someone needs to Pokemon, and it has 1,400 likes. That doesn't seem very funny. That to me seems like extraordinarily f***ed up. And Leafy responded, HDR Recon Scope. I don't know, when I saw this, I was... Does anyone really think this is funny or cool? I mean, it's kind of horrifically irresponsible and disgusting.
So, according to Ethan, when Leafy makes jokes that involve the death of those that he doesn't like, it's irresponsible and disgusting. But how is that any worse than Ethan saying to millions of people to go erase an entire convention center with thousands of real human beings inside of it? It's not. It's almost the exact same joke. Death of person I don't like equals funny, but apparently it's only an innocent joke when Ethan does it.
Once again, the biggest fucking hypocrite. Just, I mean, it's beyond hypocrisy. It's just plain sociopathy. It's pure. He stands for literally nothing.
And what shocks me the most about Ethan's far left grift that he does nowadays is that, as I mentioned earlier, Ethan actually used to be someone that the YouTube community could trust for reasonable takes on divisive issues.
We're all Americans, and wanting Trump to do a bad job is like being on an airplane with a bunch of people you dislike and hoping the pilot does a bad job so it crashes and kills everyone on board. And even though I didn't personally vote for Trump, I'm rooting for him.
Being a normal person when it came to politics actually became a part of his brand to a certain extent. Like in 2016, when Casey Neistat made a video about how every YouTuber needed to tell their fans to vote for a particular candidate, Ethan was the first one to make a rebuttal.
So if your favorite YouTuber says things like, I don't like to talk politics on my channel, or I'm not going to reveal who I'm voting for, call them out.
I think kind of the opposite of what he's saying. Don't fucking listen to me. Don't listen to Casey. I'm just a YouTuber. How does that qualify me to tell you who to vote for?
Who to fucking elect as president?
But Ethan has gone from being nuanced, open-minded, and rational to a walking NPC who just parrots the opinions of a team for monetary gain, which adds no value to actual political discourse. I want to make this clear, being a partisan hack, right or left, takes no skill, no courage, and it is the perfect formula to fall into what's called audience capture.
Here is a message from our subreddit with peace and love. Attention men and some women of the H3 subreddit, stop referring to women as females. Now, I had never, I don't know what, for whatever reason, I guess I'm guilty of saying females up until recently. I stopped. I started saying women.
Ethan is so audience captured that he would make Mussolini proud. Obviously, the word female is not in any way derogatory. I didn't have to censor it for a reason. Just like any other word, it depends on how you use it.
So you say you're a man. You identify as a man.
I do identify as a man.
Why are you dressed as a female?
It's like my character. It's my job. It's like a drag queen, like man dressed as drag, because I appreciate
You're
art and the
drag.
aesthetic.
You're a man in drag.
That's how I look at it.
But despite this fact being irrefutably true, Ethan finds himself constantly walking on eggshells for his audience, which is a clear-cut case of audience capture at work. And because he's gotten so lost in the sauce in this audience capture, I think he's forgotten the key to happiness in life.
Literally, the key to happiness in life is stop caring what short-haired fat bitches think. I promise you, your life will be happier and better if the second a girl with short hair who's overweight says anything at all, you just block it out. If they tweet, you should have your hair length and weight on your Twitter, and then you should be able to mute based on hair length and weight.
I don't know what's
and
so
you will
funny.
be
It's just
so
gospel.
fucking happy in your life if you stop thinking, because that's the opinions that drive you crazy. Why would you say that? How could you have that opinion? Your opinion is problematic. You get my haircut. We got the same. If we got the same haircut, you don't need to say nothing to me.
In all seriousness, the problem with being audience captured is the fact that over time you lose who you truly are internally. Look at this from Ethan's perspective. His audience dictates a change that he needs to make, and he complies, not out of personal conviction, but in order to avoid alienating his audience. And now, imagine doing that same cycle consistently over the course of 5 years.
Honestly, when I see stuff like this, what I see is someone who honestly is trying really hard to appease and entertain an audience that just wants them to be more and more extreme. That, like, they don't even realize how fucked up the things that they're doing are anymore.
I see it as a feedback loop.
Yeah.
The audience
Yeah.
demands him to get more extreme,
Yeah.
and he can never walk anything back or they'll turn on them.
Yeah.
So it's like they get worse and worse
It's
and
a
worse. It's
bad
spiral.
cycle, dude.
Oh, the irony.
A perfect example of Ethan being audience captured would be his reluctance to correct his very obvious homophobia while also pretending to be an ally to the LGBTQ community. For example, in 2022, Ethan started making fun of James Charles for allegedly wearing a diaper.
He has some anal leaking. Now, we were saying, well, if he's getting blasted in the ass hard enough, potentially, you may need to wear a diaper. And a lot of you will say, like, okay, we've had a debate, like, I don't think vaginas increase in size from sex, but assholes actually do. If you have a lot of anal sex, you can actually blast open your anus.
Did that exact same joke for like 15 minutes, by the way. It's really not that funny, but Ethan's audience gave him a lot of pushback for those jokes about James, and one of his fans even called in to confront him for his homophobia.
You can't always tell like who's the top, who's the bottom.
Do you find it offensive if I say, by being like, oh, he's probably a bottom? Is that the problem?
Absolutely.
It's offensive.
Because it is. Saying something the bottom in particular, I think, is probably a bit troublesome because it kind of, it starts to kind of, the gay men already, you have to deal with certain assumptions about femininity and masculinity. I mean, I'm sure you understand that. I'm not going to draw the whole
I mean, it is funny
thing.
though. I don't know. I think the problem is that the term power bottom is very funny to me. And sometimes, you know, these alpha men give power bottom vibes.
Yeah, the joke is that being a bottom is a bad or funny thing. And the main issue here is the fact that the type of person who makes these jokes isn't woke like Ethan pretends to be. Ethan is acting like someone who he truly isn't, and as a result of that, he's attracting people to his audience that are not anything like him. Then he has the audacity to get offended by the fact that he's knowingly attracted people to his audience who get easily offended.
Y'all really need some LGBTQT.
Why? What did I say
staff. Shut up.
What did I say wrong?
Shut up.
Colin, if you have a problem with my character...
You got it right. I mean, you literally got it right.
What power bottom was.
Yeah. Shut up.
I think some of y'all are just too sensitive. I feel like, you know, if you're watching this show and you're perpetually offended by things I'm saying, you may want to just stop watching, like genuinely.
Chris Distefano is an actual comedian unlike Ethan, and he makes similar types of jokes, and you will never in a million years see his audience calling him out or getting offended by those jokes, because Chris set the expectation for what people are going to get from him, and he follows through with that expectation.
I have nothing against the gay community at all. Nothing against, I
Well-
support and like the gays.
Well-
But I am not gay. I'm
Okay.
not gay.
Okay.
I do, but I'm not gay, but I am a Democrat, so I don't know.
But you're
because
a
they're mostly gay.
Democrats?
Yeah.
What do you think the percentage of Democrats that are gay?
I thought 100%.
All of them?
Like somebody.
Bobby's a Dem.
What?
Bob's a Dem.
Yeah, but Bob's gay. He told me he's gay.
There is not a single true fan of Chris's on this planet that was offended by that joke. And also, Chris doesn't joke police anyone else, so there's no valid reason to joke police him. Ethan, on the other hand, joke polices others and sets the expectation that he runs a PC podcast, then he turns around and laughs at gay people for being gay.
My then wife decided that she didn't want to be married anymore.
Yeah, dude, you fucking suck. Who's surprised, man? You suck. You're a douche. You're an asshole. You're hateful. You're a bigot. And you probably think about dudes when you have sex with her, and so you go soft when you have sex with your wife. You can't perform for her because you're not attracted to women, which is cool, but you are also homophobic, which is what's ironic about that.
He is weaponizing the fact that Steven Crowder is gay in this hypothetical case scenario and using that as an insult against him, and he justifies it in his mind because Steven is a conservative. The thing is, if you're an ally like Ethan pretends to be, you would never in a million years weaponize someone's sexuality as an insult against them, even in a hypothetical scenario. That is the definition of homophobic. And as the real fans of the channel know, I play both sides, so I always come out on top, and no one can play the self-righteous liberal douchebag better than I can.
I am so far left, I'm spinning in circles, you
This is just a theory, but I think part of what motivated Ethan to get into his far left grift is that when he started frenemies with Trisha Paytas, he gained an entirely new audience.
Our audience, it's kind of crazy. I never expected it, but like it's predominantly women.
Yeah, it's great.
It's 60% women, 40% men. But before we were 90% men.
Yeah.
And so we lost a lot of the male viewers.
And if you notice, he only started pretending to care about the LGBTQ community around the same time that Frenemies came out. In fact, he actually used to be pretty explicitly transphobic to Trisha after she came out as transgender in 2019.
I wanted to basically apologize to Trisha Paytas, who is such a sweet, genuine person, and I just really, I wanted to first of all apologize for saying that she looked like she was at an open casket funeral, like she was the corpse inside of a casket. That's not true, that's just not what I meant. Oh, you're so beautiful, you're such a queen. And I also wanted to apologize for saying that you have like a 5 to 10 inch engorged that's bigger than my dick. I mean, that would basically make you a guy. That would basically mean you had a pee. Well, I guess I'm kind of confused because you said you're trans. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't want to offend you. I know that. I'm sorry for saying that you're not trans. God, man, even though you have like cup F jugs that are always on display, and not that would make you. I don't know, but gender's all in the mind anyway, and I shouldn't even go there.
He's obviously transphobic, you know, and
But after Frenemies came out, he suddenly started pretending to be an ally.
Which is so good. That is so
Civil
good.
rights
I'm an ally.
champion.
I am an ally.
Ethan Klein.
He's not though, and most people can clearly see through how fake his political positions are, which is exactly why even most liberals can see right through the guy.
This person says, I feel you people in the sub seem to think the only ultra-conservative Alpha Bro Peterson fanboys that don't like Ethan. I'll tell you, I have very liberal friends who is a fallen fan despite having completely liberal political views. Some people just don't like Ethan.
Again, I don't follow the guy.
And then this person, I found that there are many people who stopped watching when he said various homophobic, racist, or whatever else he may have said. Right. I ran into more people like that than the Gym Bros. See, that breaks my heart, you know?
And just to correct the record here, some people have this perception that Ethan was some sort of red-pilled Republican manosphere guy, but then he got corrupted. That's not true. He has always clearly stated that he was left-leaning. So that proves that a majority of his old fans did not care at all that he was a liberal, and that's not why he lost so many subscribers. When it came to politics, I would assume people liked him because he was offering something unique that wasn't just spewing off the positions of a team, but because he's an extremist who's trying to pander to an extremist audience now, he has to try and describe that as a bad thing.
I used to be this enlightened centrist around the time we started the podcast. I used to appeal to the same kind of men that they're appealing to now. And I can't speak for them, but what it did to me is it kind of started warping me and changing me to cater to them until I came to the point where I realized that I was encouraging and fostering a community of really horrible people.
First of all, if anyone ever says enlightened centrist in a way that indicates that's a bad thing, that is a huge red flag, because that person most likely has a severe case of political brain rot, and they're most likely either alt-right or far left. And I'm starting to realize that that's actually a good thing.
I think mass psychosis is good, and other people don't, but I think there's something nice about a group of people who believe things no matter what the facts are. It's good to have a group of people completely impervious to any logic or outside information. I think it's good.
I know this might be a surprise to some, but there are some people out there who aren't addicted to Twitter who couldn't possibly care less about the 5,000th partisan left versus right debate, and not everyone is interested in being in that state of mind 24/7.
What's going on in Washington? How much does that affect your day-to-day existence? It's very little. But for some people, it becomes an enormous portion of the real estate of their mind. It takes over most of their day-to-day consciousness, where they're consumed with it, and it becomes a thing they're cheering for or they're rooting against, and then your life revolves on something that you have very little power over.
So if you can, at the very least, just take a second to even try and understand why someone would want to be a centrist or apolitical in today's political climate. I'm sorry to say it, but you most likely have a very unhealthy obsession with politics, and that's how you end up like Ethan.
But it's like, nobody's even talking about any real issues. Everybody's just accusing each other of actually being a rapist. Like, has this gone too far?
I told you, conservatives want to fuck kids, straight up. Boom.
Conservatives want to groom their children, both literally in the way that you mentioned, like they want to
fuck them.
do the child grooming rapes.
They want to fuck the kids.
They do. 100%.
Ethan also tries to do this thing where he pretends like he's not a hypocrite because he's just changing.
But sometimes a hypocrite is just a man in the process of changing. And I don't think that it's ever too late to change for the better.
Now, obviously, it's totally fine and normal to change your opinions over time. However, when people have financial incentives to change their opinions, the opinions need to be viewed under a different light. A perfect example of this was when Sneako changed his opinion on Andrew Tate.
I got the Bugatti, I got the jet. It's true, but no. Of course he hates us.
Of course, but it's just an amazing. I got a jet. I got a. See this on. I don't know, man. Like these self-help dudes are just are too full of themselves. Like, why are you yelling about your jet on a podcast?
A few moments later.
People will text me like, oh, so you just think like you just have money and you think you're so good looking and smart and fun, you think you're the man, right? And I'm like, yeah. Bruh. Yeah, I do.
The first clip is from before Tate blew up. The second clip is from after. And guess what Sneako did after Tate blew up? He literally became the dollar store version of Andrew Tate and modeled his entire life after the guy for more than a year.
Stop calling me Taco Tate. Stop calling me Taco Tate. That's offensive. That's racist, actually. Bro, anyone who says that, you cannot be in my stream anymore. I don't fuck with you. Opie, thanks for
should be Chopstick Tate.
So, did Sneako truly change his opinion over time? No. Just like Ethan, he grifted his way to the top of his team.
What does the G in Top G stand for? Top grifter. Where else does Sneako learn his tricks from?
W joke.
And I'm bringing up Sneako specifically because these guys are two sides of the same coin. They both used to be well-respected individuals who clearly thought for themselves, and they both actually had a lot of success doing so, but they both ended up taking the easy way out, and they sold out to their teams for monetary gain.
This show is about rational thought. It's about cutting through the bullshit, okay? Whether you're on the left or the right. This is not a politically affiliated show, and it never has been. We're about cutting through the bullshit and getting to the heart of something.
My channel, and a lot of you who I think relate to me, you're always on the come up. You're always thinking about getting more money, power, respect. You want to move up in the world. And anybody who's really trying to move up is wasting their time involving themselves in politics.
And look, I'm sure these guys are making more money than they ever were back then, but money does not mean anything if you have to sell your soul to get it. And for those viewers out there who do value authenticity and integrity in those which they choose to support in their free time, it's impossible to follow or support someone like Ethan or Sneako because they're now both extremely radicalized and they've both previously admitted on video that they know that's wrong.
Also, how am I radicalized? I mean,
How does he think you migrated to the opposite side of the political spectrum?
Yeah, again-
You've always said the same stuff. And we've always been transparent about it.
I think so.
We have.
I mean, I've been a lot more open about it, like, obviously, in the past year.
Maturing and becoming a grown-up and an adult, you obviously start to talk more about politics.
There's a massive difference between politics and culture war BS, and a majority of the time, Ethan's political commentary is nothing but culture war crap.
Something has caught the world's eye that we must debate here on this stage. Does Governor Andrew Cuomo have a nipple piercing?
If I ever have to stoop this low for content, I'd rather just go back to shilling used cars again. When you're this obsessed with culture war topics to the point where you're a 40-year-old straight man talking about another man's nipples, at one point or another, you are going to lose your mind.
There are all sorts of interdimensional forces in the universe in multi-dimensions. So there's like bad aliens that are trying to manipulate our development.
Gretchen Whitmer.
Because a high level, exactly.
Ethan is actually so radicalized nowadays that he even went on to make an entire show strictly about the culture war with the Alex Jones of the left, Hassan Piker.
What is the leftovers? Listen, I've had enough of you guys complaining that you don't want me to talk about politics, so I went and made a whole fucking show about it. But the spirit of this show is not serious policy debate. It is bringing righteous justice to these shitbags. That's it.
Okay.
Just clowning on idiots.
Okay, so you're literally creating the liberal version of Louder with Crowder? Way to own those reactionary fascists, guys. Let's see how that turned out after one major geopolitical conflict.
We're going to discuss everything, but I do want to make something very clear at the top of the show here, is that I've seen a lot of people expecting us to come froth and argue and our friendship is going to end and the show is going to end or something like that. And I'm sorry to disappoint you guys, but that's definitely not what we're planning on doing here. It's not going to happen.
People are saying rip leftovers.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Yeah, probably. It's not going to happen.
If you don't know Hassan Piker, God bless your heart. I'm going to cover him soon, but just the fact that Ethan went out of his way to start a podcast with Hassan should tell us everything you need to know about how disingenuous Ethan's political grift is nowadays. Hassan's entire career revolves around the fact that he preaches socialism from his $9 trillion LA mansion, and his full-time job is literally just stealing the work of others, aka exploiting the working class, while also sitting on his ass and claiming to be an on-the-ground journalist.
If it's between me going live and giving you 10 hours of on-the-ground, 10 hours of reporting from the ground at a critical moment, at a critical time, versus not going live that day just so I can go on Piers Morgan and fucking yell at him, I think it's selfish of me to take the Piers Morgan route.
Hassan is an outright fraud. This is a bipartisan issue that most people agree upon, and at the very least, we can all admit that if Hassan was someone that Ethan disliked in any possible way, he would tear the man apart at every single opportunity for exactly what I just said. Yet, Ethan went on to start an entire culture war podcast with this absolute fraud, and we have to ask ourselves, why did he do that?
Money, 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 motherfucker.
Leftovers was literally the left-wing equivalent of Andrew Tate and Alex Jones co-hosting InfoWars. Repetitive, partisan culture war nonsense that sucks to watch for the average person out there who doesn't have political brain rot. Yet, this guy has the audacity to ask how he's radicalized.
Someone should bomb that building.
America deserved 9/11, dude. I'm saying it.
Another thing which I find to be incredibly hypocritical about Ethan's political grift is the fact that Ethan and his two companies accepted about $500,000 worth of PPP loans during the pandemic, which were then forgiven by the government. Now, if you didn't know, Ethan is one of the wealthiest YouTubers on the entire platform.
We're rich now.
You are bougie as fuck. You're the bougiest. I think you're the richest person I know off YouTube.
Which is good for him, but I find this to be incredibly hypocritical because he often pretends to advocate for social programs for the working class.
I'm talking about stuff like universal health care. I don't think that people should have to pay for insulin. You know, I don't think people should be incarcerated for nonviolent crimes. I don't think that prisons should be owned by private companies and be profiting off prisons. I think universities should be free or damn near close. You know what I mean? Yeah. I believe that that there should be like a universal basic income from people who, as we automate the world more and more, you know what I mean? It's just only natural that there's gonna be less jobs. I think what I'm interested in is like the welfare of everybody in the country, and especially the people on the bottom side, because they're the ones that are gonna need the most help coming up. You know what I mean?
On the surface, it sounds commendable, right? But based on his actions, he doesn't actually care about any of that at all. You see, PPP loans were funded primarily by taxpayer money, and once those loans were forgiven, the taxpayers were once again left to cover those costs of that loan forgiveness through the taxes that we pay. So that literally means that taxpayers funded his loans initially, and then we also covered the cost of that loan again through our taxes when the loans were forgiven. And although in the grand scheme of things, $500,000 obviously isn't a lot to the federal government, the fact of the matter is, every single person living in the US today has less money in their bank accounts because of multimillionaires like Ethan who unnecessarily accepted these loans, which were then forgiven. And regardless of the taxpayer aspect of it, this guy was literally a full-time podcaster at that time. It's not that expensive to host a podcast, and if it is that expensive for anyone to run an online podcast, that's a choice, not a requirement. Plus, there's the fact that Ethan's income actually skyrocketed during the pandemic, because obviously more people were online watching more ads. And in addition to the extra ad revenue they made during the pandemic, the more eyeballs the show gets, the more Teddy Trash makes. So Ethan's pockets were not negatively impacted in any possible way, shape, or form from the pandemic. And I'm no economics expert, but to the best of my knowledge, nobody needs a loan to make more money. So if you want to advocate for social programs, I can certainly appreciate the compassion. More power to you. I am not here to debate policy, but what you can't do is publicly take money directly from the working class twice, then turn around and verbally pretend to advocate for the same people that you stole from when we all know for a fact you didn't need any of that money, then 9 months later buy a $400,000 Rolls-Royce Cullinan. That is just disgusting.
You are just fucking rotten inside, bro. Vile, man.
And speaking of vile, Ethan is also racist, in my personal opinion, which is obviously very hypocritical, given the fact that he cries about anti-Semitism at every possible turn, even when his own friends say something positive about Jewish people.
I like the stereotypes of like their noses. I would like my son to have Moses' nose. It looks so nice. It's nice and big, and I like it. But in a good way. I'm being so serious. Don't I say I love your nose?
Yeah, I mean, that is a deeply anti-Semitic trope.
But I love the nose. I do. I love
But
it.
there isn't
mine
really
is like a frog.
Jewish nose.
Mine looks like a little rabbit, a little frog, not a rabbit. Rabbits are cute. Mine is a frog.
I don't think that there really is a Jewish nose.
You don't have one.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, like, that's an anti-Semitic trope.
You say this is a comedy podcast?
I thought so, but apparently that's an anti-Semitic trope.
There's dozens of clips I have saved showing what I believe to be Ethan being racist, but let's just focus on a few of the examples for brevity.
You know what's crazy? I grew up in the suburbs of Los Angeles, Ventura.
Yes.
And I grew up, I don't think I've ever known a black person.
Really?
What? I know it's fucked up, but I've never been in a situation in my life where I've been in close proximity with black people. I've never known a black person.
Are you being serious?
Yes, I'm serious.
Like all through elementary school, high school?
No, I swear to God.
This guy grew up in California, not Utah, so to me, that sounds like a choice he's made. And even if he did hypothetically grow up in Utah, YouTubers are, in general, incredibly diverse. So for him to be a fully grown adult with white hair who's never known someone who has skin that's a different color as his is, at the very least, a huge red flag.
They're like these huge black dudes, and they're all strapped. They were all black. There was like 10. I'm just saying, every single one of them was black.
Okay. I don't even pay
You don't
attention
see
to color or
color.
anything.
If there's 8 dudes on security and they're all black, I think that's worth noting.
I just noticed their suit. They were all wearing suits.
They were all wearing suits. Yeah, no, they were super professional.
nice.
And I mean, they were all like 6'5" black
Yeah.
dudes. Yeah, that's terrifying. Is a 6'5" black dude scare you more than a 6'5" white dude?
No. Is it supposed to?
Well,
I mean, it's the height maybe that will scare you.
Yeah. Yeah. How do I get out of this? Get me out of this.
What he's doing here is projecting his internalized racism onto others. He thinks that because he's personally racist in his own mind, that others think the same way.
Is a 6'5" black dude scare you more than a 6'5" white dude?
If I were to take 8 6'5" guys from Iceland who are all jacked, wearing all black, and strapped, they would still be scary. The situation he's describing being scary is just not in any way exclusive to a specific skin color.
I don't remember the context, but I think what I was trying to do was highlight I was almost trying to admit how I racially profile, like how I feel like people do that. Obviously, that came off bad. I mean, yeah, it's bad. But I think I was just trying to own to the fact that I do racially profile.
When Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the 2022 Grammys, Ethan claimed that it wasn't possible to defend Will because he was embodying the stereotype of an angry black man.
A lot of black women feel like it's reifying stereotypes about us being loud and masculine, aggressive and ratchet and things like that that are just not great because we have to combat those stereotypes every day.
A few minutes later.
If you're worried about stereotypes, I've heard black comedians and actors and activists acknowledge there's this trope about like the violent black man, right? He can't control his temper.
Right, definitely.
He's a violent black man. And it's that they say that this is a harmful stereotype. So how the can people defend Will, who seems to be embodying that stereotype? Like you're changing out one stereotype for another.
How can you defend Will? He's a human being who is universally loved and appreciated by almost the entirety of the US population for about 30 years before he made one terrible mistake publicly.
Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
It literally boils down to the fact that humans sometimes get angry and sometimes humans do stupid things after 30 years of being close to perfection. If you want to criticize him for that mistake, you're more than welcome to do that. But what you can't do is deduce the entirety of someone's career to a stereotype based on one singular incident. If that's the game we're playing, why don't we all just judge Ethan only by his extensive history with doing blackface? Because just like every other non-racist person, Ethan has also done that as well.
Blackface? I mean, that some people would say blackface is just a joke, right?
Wow, man.
I mean, it's just a joke. Jokes are cool.
Now, obviously he was trying to be edgy, and he thought doing this provocative video with a charcoal face mask would get him views. But I did some digging, and I found this now deleted tweet from years ago before Ethan dropped his blackface video, which reads, "When she says she only dates black guys," which is interesting to say the least. Again, there are so many more examples of this behavior that I have saved that I could maybe revisit at a later date.
She's holding what looks like a phallic object, a little 8-year-old girl, and a big, giant black man looking in on her, man. It's like Blackzilla. This guy's got a weird fantasy, dude. Blackzilla rapes the little 8-year-old white girl with blonde hair. Likes it.
But we do have to keep this somewhat concise, so to me, the smoking gun evidence in this case scenario is Ethan just straight up admitting to having prejudices.
I know I'm not racist. I know I have prejudices, right? I'm working on it. I have prejudices. I think most people have prejudices that I'm aware of and working on and stuff like that. You know, I'm not racist. I don't think so. You know, I can even admit that, you know, at times I think and do racist things, but only because I'm ignorant and it's something I'm working on.
If you admit on video that you have prejudices, then in the very next sentence you admit to thinking and doing racist things, then you are just racist. There's not really much of a nuanced discussion to be had here. And as someone who has personally had to deal with actual racism throughout almost every step of his career online, he turns around and is openly racist to another group of people, which one is incredibly hypocritical to progressive values, and two, perpetuates another cycle of racism when realistically this was something that was supposed to stay in the 20th century.
I have a dream. My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
75 years later.
Is a 6'5" black dude scare you more than a 6'5" white dude?
So with all of that being said, has Ethan genuinely shifted his perspective over the years, or is this all just strategic alignments with shifting norms? Well, if you look at Ethan honestly and objectively, it's nothing but strategic alignment. He criticized cancel culture and far-left left extremists back in the day when it was more popular to do so.
I don't even understand this concept that seems to be almost entirely prevalent on the like extreme left side, where they protest conservative, or not even conservative, people they disagree with, and they shut it down. To the point where, you know, like what happened to you can't even give the speech. And to me, that just seems like you're amplifying their message. Like it happened recently with like Milo. He went to Berkeley and these people rioted and shut down. And I don't personally agree with a lot of stuff that he says, but by going there and shutting him down, giving him all these headlines and stuff, you're just gonna have more people listening to him the second time around.
Then, as soon as it was no longer financially rewarding for him to follow that same ideology, he instantly went on to become the far left extremist.
Usually on reality shows, like if you watch The Bachelor, all the guys are like, oh my, why did I just say that?
The reality is, Ethan's transformations track flawlessly with which online trend is the most profitable and socially rewarding at the time. And at the very least, that should make everyone question whether his transformation is coming from a place of genuine conviction or if they're merely strategic moves. Now that I've brought you up to speed with some of Ethan's transgressions of the past, I think it's time that we move on to his illustrious future. The question is, what does the future hold for someone like Ethan Klein? Well, he's gonna stay the exact same. It's not that he refuses to change, he's certainly changed. The main issue here is that he refuses to handle any sort of actual criticism that he considers to be even remotely negative. As we can see here from this now deleted Reddit post, which reads, "Disappointed with the censorship I'm seeing on here," which was immediately followed up with a 30-day ban from the subreddit. Obviously, not all criticism is valid, and you do have to moderate online communities to a reasonable extent, but they do this to almost every post on the subreddit speaking out against Ethan, and they also do this same thing to the paying members in their chat. And if criticism is met with censorship and deflection rather than reflection 99% of the time, it begs the question, does he even want to get better? As I mentioned earlier, Ethan vaguely responded to Gokunaru's video about him in 2018, and in that video, he admitted to being guilty of a lot of the things Gokunaru accused him of.
What have people been saying about me recently? That I'm a hypocrite, that I prioritize money over everything else, that I've thrown friends under the bus, that I'm ignorant and poorly informed, and spread misinformation, that I'm arrogant, that I cannot handle criticism, and that I've used people.
And let me just say this, okay, for the record, that I am guilty of all of those things.
And that sounds fantastic verbally, but as I've clearly demonstrated in this video, he hasn't actually corrected any of those problems. In fact, he's gotten exponentially worse at almost all of those things, and it's been almost 2,000 days since then.
Words are seriously wind. Like, you can have all the wisdom and say all the right things, but it will go out one ear and out the other. It is weightless. It means nothing in the face of actually living an example.
So realistically, there's only two ways this goes down. On one hand, Ethan can continue churning out quantity over quality content that clearly lacks the spark, charisma, or really anything reminiscent of his early days on the platform, and he'll continue to expose himself for the absolute fraud that he is, which could potentially see his viewership dwindling due to the repetitiveness of the content and its lack of substance, value, and quality. Or, on the other hand, it's not like the alternative is much brighter. Stepping away or significantly changing his content would mean confronting the very fraudulent identity that he's carefully crafted and built online over the past few years. He can finally drop the act, and his true self might even show itself again. Whatever that true self even is at this point. It's a choice between continuing with a formula that will at one point or another lose steam aside from the core fan base, or venturing into the unknown and risking everything he's built.
It's a lose-lose. He got himself into the worst situation through pure ego, and I'm just telling you, everyone's gonna hate his guts with peace and love. Also, I'm pretty sure he's actually just a really shitty guy, and as more people turn on him, there's gonna be lots of like hit pieces that are gonna come out, ex-significant others, ex-employees, shady business dealings. It's all gonna come out as people dislike him more and more, especially the conservatives. And I'm just telling you, man, This is it. This is the end of good guy Ethan Klein.
Because no matter what in the world he does or says, he's put himself in a position where he has to continue to go live 4 days a week for 4 hours a day, and because he's so fake and so hateful, he's just going to continue to expose himself more than I or anyone else ever could.
You can't fake it. You can't fake anything because the camera catches every lie. Which is why I tell my clients it is better to be yourself than pretend to be something you're not.
You see, in this beautiful world that we happen to live in, there are good guys and there are bad guys. Obviously, it's not always black and white, and most people fall into the gray. However, given the amount of evidence in this case scenario, I think it's more than fair to say that Ethan falls into the bad guy category. But Ethan isn't your typical bad guy. Ethan is the bad guy who acts like the good guy, the wolf in sheep's clothing. And that, my friend, is the most dangerous type of individual in this world. That's the type of man that will steal, cheat, and lie his way to the top. And once he's there, he'll do and say just about anything to stay. Manipulating narratives, exploiting vulnerabilities, lying on video, making fun of the dead, weaponizing childhood trauma. It's all nothing but evil under the guise of virtue. So, although I typically approach criticism with a mindset of empathy,
this is the exception. I hate this bastard. Not even, far more than a little bit. He is the worst human being any of you will ever meet. You get within a mile of his presence. Wrap your arms around yourself to protect your soul. He is Cain.
As I've always said, when someone shows you who they are, you should believe them. And Ethan has been exposing himself for who he truly is behind the facade since 2016. The signs have always been there, and people still gave him the benefit of the doubt.
And I think that he's been given a pretty fair shake in the grand scheme of things. People have certainly afforded him much more charitability than he gave to people like Jake Paul or any of the other creators who he lambasted back in the day on his own channel.
Even today, the most common way I see people refer to him is just as a hypocrite. Ethan isn't just a hypocrite, that is a very charitable understatement.
I mean, hypocrisy doesn't even describe what you are.
He is a hypocrite, he's a liar, he's a scammer, he's racist, he's homophobic, he's a grifter, and most importantly, he's certainly not any better than any of the people he criticizes or tries to cancel. Whether it's Leafy, Colleen Ballinger, David Dobrik, Keem, Vosh, he is just as bad, if not worse, than all those people. So what I'm saying is that if you look at the totality of his behavior, like I obviously have, the man is absolutely indefensible.
Listen, I've never been on this side of an argument where I'm so clearly right, and it's not even debatable. Like, it's actually quite amazing to me to be in this position, to just come out here with no humility and say, I'm fucking right, and you are wrong.
Obviously, hindsight is 20/20. Nobody could have predicted what's happened to Ethan over the past few years and how bad it's truly gotten. But when I look at the way he acts now and how comfortable he is outright lying about things which are verifiably false on video, it does make me question whether or not Ethan was ever even that cool, rational guy that he originally presented himself as on the H3H3 Productions channel. Or was it just a carefully curated facade to fit in with the times? The truth is, as always, yours to decide. One thing's for certain, the flame that used to drive what made the original H3H3 content so special has now been completely extinguished by what Ethan has become. Ethan, if you're watching this, I just have one last message for you.
Love yourself. That's all I gotta say. If you look in the mirror and hate yourself, love yourself. Yes, you should love yourself now. Yes, you should.
Love yourself, because you're the only person you're stuck with for the rest of your life. So why not, right? If you like this video, I know you'll love this one about Ethan's friend, iDubbbz. He's had one of the worst downfalls in all of YouTube history, just like Ethan. Or maybe this one about Sniper Wolf on the screen right now. If you like the video, like it. If you disliked it, dislike it. If you want to support the channel, you can become a member. And aside from that, I hope you all have a wonderful day.
If you enjoyed this video, please leave a hiss in the comments. Thank you.